Well, hello there. Omni-sensei here with What If I Was Reborn in JJK with Mahoraga's Adaptation finale. If you enjoy this content, please smash the like button. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to check out the original story linked in the description. I hope you enjoy listening to it.
Jujutsu High. While Yuta was having a discussion with Naohiro, another event was happening with Maki. Maki stands next to the gate while two boys sit on a bench. Flirting. The shorter boy was cuddling him with a smile while the other was lying back and relaxed. A tick mark appears on Maki's face. Do you have to do that on campus? I already have something to deal with. The relaxed man spoke up, still looking at the sky. Since when did you get a stick up your ass? Maki rubs her forehead and sighs. I'm just a little irritated now. I thought I found someone strong to fight against, but he disappointed me. The shorter boy spoke up. Why not fight Kin again? Kin is strong. She crossed her arms. Kinji isn't strong unless he uses his domain. That got a tick mark out of the boy. Just because you won doesn't mean you can call him weak. However, she returned his comment with a smirk. Oh yeah, remind me how that went. He refuted her claim. It was luck. He wasn't able to get a jackpot off. She raised an eyebrow. It's a fight. I won't stand there while he spins 100 times. Akari spoke up. Kirara, please don't start a fight. The atmosphere changed. Maki smiles as a thought hits her. A fight, huh? That's what I need right now. Akari lowers his head to look at her. Not interested. Your fever never excites me, and we were busy until you showed up. She was about to move but turned her head when running was heard. Step. Step. Yuta ran to Maki, breathless, with his hands on his knees. Huff. Huff. Am I going to die here? She kept her smile. You have a 50-50 shot. Akari spoke up. You're one of the new students, right? Let me guess, you met Mr. Psycho. Yuta raised an eyebrow. Mr. Psycho? Akari looked at Yuta like he was an idiot, but Kirara ended up speaking. Black hair, has a thing for training, likes beating up teenagers, really strong, and is muscular. Ring a bell? Achoo. Maki sneezed. Yuta spoke up. Yeah, and I can say that I'm not a huge fan. Nice to meet you, I'm Yuta Okatsu. Maki shook her head. You're not the only one. However, he does show results with his methods, which is why I haven't run away. Akari spoke up. This school is so weird. I went from having a devil for a teacher to a teacher who doesn't do anything valuable. Kirara narrowed his eyes. Gojo. He teaches but can't explain anything since he's so damn talented at everything. Akari stared at the sky again. The rules here suck, and the teachers are drill sergeants or freaks. Maybe I'll leave this stupid place. I'm not cut out for this sorcerer shit. However, Kirara smiled. Well, Gojo did say that you would surpass him one day. Akari waved it off. I don't trust anything that guy says at this point. I can't even hit, let alone beat him, even if I stay at this shitty school. Maki huffed a laugh. At least it's better than Kyoto. Mai told me that it was terrible. There are only two promising students, her and another named Aoi to do. Yuta raised his own eyebrow. Aoi to do? She nodded. Yep, but they will only be grade 1s in the end. Kirara had a tick mark. Do you think grade 1s are weak or something? Maki smiled. Akari is one of them. Kirara returned a less than appropriate finger. You aren't even graded, you jujutsuless bum. She shrugged. At least I'm the strongest student in the school. Yuta widened his eyes. The strongest student in the school? She raised an eyebrow. Aside from Gojo and Naohiro, yes. Kirara looked irritated. Gore, Kin, can you beat her up? Surprisingly, Akari smiled as he stood up and stretched his arms, Kirara falling off. Honestly, I'm kinda curious as to what Yuta's fever is like. Yuta stepped backward. Hold on a second, I'm going on a mission with Maki. However, Maki gave him a closed-eye smile as she hit his back. He waved his hands in panic. "I'm not ready for this thing." Kirara started yelling out. "Kin, Maki dash," Hikari rubbed his forehead as he looked a little annoyed. "Shut it, Kirara." Whoosh. He removed his Jujutsu high uniform to a white tank top and threw it to Kirara. Crack. He then cracked his knuckles and smiled. Yuta turned to Maki with a face that screamed, "Help me." She knew exactly what Yuta wanted but didn't care. Maki backed away as Hikari took a deep breath. "Show me what you got, Yuta Okatsu." Yuta started sweating as he got into a fighting position. Hikari jumped at Yuta and threw a punch, which he tried guarding with both arms. However, pop. Hikari punched Yuta in the face. Yuta went flying and rolled on the ground for a bit before stopping. He narrowed his eyes. "What is with you? You don't use any reinforcement, but my punches don't feel as strong as they should be." Yuta slowly pushed himself up as his face showed small cuts from Hikari's cursed energy trait. "Hold on, I just got here today." Bang. Hikari kicked him in the stomach, but he felt resistance. His eyes widened. "Holy shit, the raw amount of cursed energy you have is passively reinforcing your body." Yuta stood up and threw a punch. Hikari dodged as he grabbed his arm and threw him. While Hikari is strong, against someone with an insane amount of passive reinforcement, getting hit wouldn't be nice. Yuta crashed on the ground but managed to shoot back up. He narrowed his eyes to everyone's surprise, and his cursed energy could be felt. Yuta spoke. "So that's how you were doing it." Hikari smirked. "What the hell? You figured out reinforcement from me punching you." Kirara cheered from the side. "Kick his ass, Kin." This time, Yuta rushed towards Hikari with shabby cursed energy reinforcement. He threw an ugly punch that Hikari was able to dodge. Bam. Hikari punched Yuta, but instead of going flying like before, his fist only pushed Yuta's face back a few inches. Yuta used his left hand to throw his fist at Hikari. Bam. Hikari gets hit in the face, which makes him stumble back a few feet. Drip. Drip. Yuta breathes heavily as Hikari raises his head with a smile as his nose bleeds. He laughed and licked the blood coming from his nose. "Your fever ain't bad. I'm getting fired up myself." Jumping back at Yuta, they start throwing hands back and forth. While Yuta takes more hits, Hikari becomes more damaged as he gets hit again, this time in the side. Hikari's eyes widened as he felt something strange about Yuta. He's adapting. Kick. Hikari gets kicked in the side of the head. However, it does noticeably less damage than before. He smiles. "Well, that's enough holding back." Close. Train doors close on Yuta's stomach, taking the air out of him as Hikari jumps and kicks him. Yuta speaks up, disoriented. "Where did these doors come from?" Hikari keeps his smile. "It's a cursed technique, dumbass." Creak. With difficulty, Yuta starts pushing up on the doors to free himself. Maki noticed that Hikari's arms started moving in a peculiar motion. Her eyes widened. "Kinji, you aren't going to." Hikari laughs like a maniac. "I sure as hell am." Domain expansion, idle death gamble. A black barrier encases everyone in the vicinity. Yuta pushes off the doors and looks around the barrier as a train station forms. Hikari speaks up. "Let's get it rolling, probability shift." Yuta grabs his head as a lot of information gets flooded inside his mind. "What is this?" Maki spoke up as she sat inside the domain. Domain expansion is the highest level of Jujutsu sorcery someone can reach. Kirara spoke up. "Why are you, of all people, explaining domain expansion?" Maki glared at him. "Can you be a good little side character and shut up?" Kirara's mouth dropped as Maki's eyes widened. "Oh no, I'm sounding like Naohiro." As Maki was having an existential crisis, Yuta and Hikari threw hands. Hikari was rolling for a jackpot while Yuta was getting beat up, badly. Even without hitting a jackpot, Hikari's abilities rise inside his domain, and he gets access to other offensive abilities. Suddenly, Yuta widened his eyes as he unintentionally tasted Hikari's blood on his face. Hikari threw a fist toward Yuta's stomach. Close. His eyes widen as he sees the train doors close on him. My curse technique. Yuta drools as he puts his all into a punch. BTZ. His fist flashes black, but something odd happens. Grab. Hikari grabs his wrist as the domain ends, stopping Yuta's punch. Yuta snaps back to reality as Hikari speaks up. It's over. Music, start. Whoosh. Cursed energy explodes, and extremely loud music starts playing. Not a moment later, Hikari appeared before Yuta's face and threw a punch that would hurt bad. Maki reaches back and takes off the cloth covering a weapon. Boom. Maki appeared before Yuta with red nunchucks clashing with Hikari's fist. They cancelled each other out. She spoke up. You trying to kill him? Hikari snapped out of whatever trance he was in. Ah. She sighed. We're done. Yuta and I are going on our mission now. He narrowed his eyes but backed away and put his hands in his pockets. Yuta sighed in relief. You. Thanks, Maki. Hikari spoke up with a smirk. Hey, let's do this again sometime. I like your fever. Yuta rubbed the back of his head. Well, I don't get what you mean, but give me a bit before we fight again. Hikari nodded and turned towards Kirara. All right, let's get out of here. I'm hungry for dinner. With that, they both walked away. Maki smiled. Mission time. Yuta fell on his knees. Can I have a little time to rest? Grab. She grabs the back of his shirt. Nope, time to go. Yuta accepts defeat as they make their way to the mission site. Tombs of the Star with widened eyes, Yuram screams. Icefall. Piercing blood is fast, but she could use her cursed technique since her hands were already on the ground. Shink. A massive ice formation formed, covering her point of view. Choso speaks, albeit with a muffled voice. Flowing red scale, stacked. 3 small arrows appeared at the side of the lines on his face. While talking to Yuram, he activated the base flowing red scale. The difference between flowing red scale stacked and base versions is a massive multiplier. Crack. Boom. The small beam shoots through it as steam can be seen coming off of the blood. Yuram barely moves her head to the side to avoid taking another piercing blood. URG. Damn it. Kenjaku spoke up while moving around the chess pieces. If this keeps up, you'll die, Yuram. She glared at him. Huff. Huff. Quiet, Kenjaku. Choso spoke up. Slicing exorcism. Slash. The large ice structure gets sliced in 2. Yuram scowls as she thinks to herself. My output is lowered. It should have easily taken that attack. The ice clears to Choso, covering a small portion of his body. Sizzle. It visibly starts melting off of him. Yuram puts her hand in front of her face. Frost calm. The air's temperature dropped, and a cold wind approached Choso. Suddenly, Choso's eyes narrowed as blood rapidly started covering his body as he pushed through her ice. The ice was forming on Choso's body, but the combination of Yuram's lowered output and flowing red scale, stacked allowed him to push through. Yuram widened her eyes as Choso hardened the blood on his fist. Bam. She gets punched in the face, and blood spurts from her mouth as a few teeth get broken. Getting sent flying and rolling for 10 meters, Yuram groans in pain as she heals her face with a reverse curse technique. Choso slowly walks towards her. Every attack that connects with you is more poison that gets introduced into your body. It starts with a loss of breath and eventually turns into paralysis. The longer I fight someone, the more they become helpless. At this point, Yuram can only allow Choso to reveal more of his technique to amplify himself. Yuram looked at Choso as blood ran down her face. I didn't come here to die to a bastard like you. Choso looked down at her with murderous eyes. You don't have a say in that. Grab. He picked up Yuram by her hair. Now, tell me where Yuji is, and I'll make it quick. If not, this will take a while. Yuram's eyes widened in horror as she remembered something long ago. Words that scarred her. This will take a while. Kenjaku sighed from the side. How disappointing. What do you think Sukuna would say to you now? Yuram's eyes widened as she knew exactly what he would say to her, and it wasn't words of admiration or praise. Bam! Choso hit her in the face again. Where is he? Stab. He blinked as he looked down and saw ice spearing through his chest. Choso let go of her as he stumbled back and ripped it out. To his surprise, Yuram stood up with tears streaming down her face with eyes that showed hatred. Even if I can never use my curse technique again, I'll ensure he is revived. All I need to be is a cook. I don't care what happens to me. Everything I've done is for him. Choso put his hands in front of him and narrowed his eyes. Convergence, supernova. Tens of blood bullets get shot at Yuram, but she claps her hands together. Curse technique maximum output, ice formation. Shink. Half of the room gets encased in ice instantaneously, narrowly avoiding Tengen. Looking inside the structure, Choso has widened eyes but is frozen. Yuram glares at Kenjaku. Time to get you out. Tengen takes a step back, but Yuram speaks. Ice formation. An ice structure encases Tengen, restricting her movements. Kenjaku smiles as he puts his arms on the barrier and slowly dismantles it. Pop. He pops through, similar to Naohiro. Yuram looked shocked. How did you do that with the barrier's properties? Kenjaku cracked his neck. It is tough, but without Tengen focusing on it, dismantling closed barriers can be done. I prepared this one before she shut off my ability to create them. Luckily, I'm the only person in the world who can match Tengen in barrier techniques. He then turned to Tengen. She stared at Kenjaku with narrowed eyes. What is the point of doing all this? He tilted his head to the side. The point of what? Tengen continued. Playing around, allowing yourself to get sealed, and having your lackey come here. Yuram starts walking towards her. Lackadash. Kenjaku raises his hand at Yuram to shush her. The point is you. Tengen's eyes widened. Me. He shrugged. I guess it doesn't matter if I tell you or not since you won't remember it anyway. I'm going to use you to create a being of unimaginable power. Merging you with all of Japan will result in an entirely new entity. I needed to stay here to study and observe you. I've never had the opportunity to do so until we agreed to seal Naohiro Zenin. Tengen spoke. At the beginning, you said that you would have preferred that he kill you. He smirked. That was one outcome that worked best since I would have been able to move around more freely, but having Yuram do things for me gave me the time to focus on you. However, after observing you, I've devised a different plan for the merging. Tengen narrowed her eyes. And what will that be? His eyes widened as a wide smile appeared on his face. Yuji Itadori. Yuram remembered what Choso said and glared towards the ice structure. Alive but frozen and unconscious. She walks towards Choso, but Tengen speaks up. Please let him live. Yuram stopped, and Kenjaku slightly widened his eyes as he spoke. I didn't expect that from you, of all people. Tengen had a sad look on her face. I've made so many mistakes. I try doing everything in mankind's best interest, but I've failed. He has nothing to do with this. He smiled. That isn't the Tengen I remember. She lowered her head. Please. Yuram spoke up. I only have 5 more minutes before I lose my curse technique. Kenjaku waved her off. Let us go, Yuram. We got what we came here for. We've got a culling game to start. He walks over to the half-frozen Tengen and touches her face. Good night, you shut in. Everything went dark for Tengen. With Yuram on carrying duty, she picked up Tengen and left the Tombs of the Star with Kenjaku. Kenjaku curses born from concepts are the strongest. Fears, negative energy, and concepts create curses, but only a select few can be said to be able to reach the highest form of sorcery. Recent times have been complicated due to the 6 eyes, but more powerful curses have been born to counteract them. It has given me the perfect opportunity to start the culling games. A binding vow was made with various past sorcerers to create a survival game for the strongest sorcerers in history. Yorozu won't be able to participate, but she is irrelevant long-term. I could go by every sorcerer one by one to awaken them, but that leaves me at risk of Naohiro, which wouldn't be an ideal outcome. There is also the issue with Sukuna. Even Sukuna can't win against the combined effort of Naohiro and Satoru. If the fight is pitched one-on-one, he doesn't stand a chance if they work together, even if he incarnates at his maximum power. I've had to improvise. The merger. If Sukuna alone isn't enough, why not introduce an equal or higher power? Originally, the plan was for Tengen to merge with Japan. However, the result won't be satisfactory. It's why I'm lucky to have birthed Yuji. Merging the immortal barrier master Tengen with someone who has the potential to rival Sukuna himself will do much more than if Tengen merged with a group of humans. The question is how to incarnate Sukuna if the proper vessel will be used for merging. The culling games. I speak up. I'm sure you have collected him, yes? Yuram turns towards me. Of course, I wouldn't come here without a way to get out. I smile. We wouldn't want Naohiro to be able to track her now, would we? She glared at me but shook her head as she reached inside her robe and brought out a vial. Pop. Grabbing the vial and opening it, I turn it over to drop the cursed womb. It spoke. Scream, die, hate. Disgusting. Cursed wombs evolve using various methods. However, speeding up this process can be done if the correct steps are taken. Grab. The manipulation of cursed energy at the highest degree can allow one to do many things, even forcing evolution to an extent. While it won't be perfect, it is needed for now. Whoosh. Cursed energy shoots into the womb. A wide smile appears on my face as it rapidly expands. Since this isn't my real body, I must return to my main one after this is completed. Naohiro's tracking ability seems to work with marking his cursed energy. Since it doesn't disappear, it can be assumed that he is leaving it on souls. So, what would happen if you were able to manipulate the soul? Answer: you can remove the tracking he has on Tengen. It won't take him long to figure out what is happening, but I only need a little time. This cursed womb is interesting since it has boundless potential due to its nature. The fear and hatred of humans. A gray curse with long hair and patches. The thing smiles as it speaks. Mahito. I give it a closed-eye smile. Splat. I grab the thin wire on my head and remove it to reveal my true form. Using the curse technique of others in my current body will kill the clone, but I have a few seconds before that happens. I grab my brain and place it inside the barely alive curse. I speak. Ahem. Yuram, take Kaori to the main body after I'm done. She nodded as I grabbed Tengen and put my hand on the ground. I smile. The technique, idol transfiguration. Shink. A massive symbol appears on the ground. Using a freshly awakened technique around Japan wouldn't be effective, so the Tombs of the Star is the primary location to start the culling games. Tengen's barriers cover the entirety of Japan, so using them as a medium for idol transfiguration allows for the activation and release of the consumed cursed objects. While unleashing the cursed objects, Tengen's body physically changes as I manipulate her soul to remove the tracker that Naohiro has on her. Sizzle. Suddenly, I notice my body start to disintegrate. Unfortunately, I'll lose access to this cursed technique, but I'll finally be in my main body. I turn to Yuram, who is blushing. We will meet soon. Remember to keep her away from eyes until we can complete the merging. Rather than responding to me, she mumbles. Master Sukuna. I smirk as my vision starts fading as the curse becomes exorcised. Across Japan, a young man's eyes snap open. Shooting up, he stretches. He smiles. Now, where is Sukuna? Boom. Loud explosions can be heard as a woman smashes through buildings. The woman with black scara laughs. Aha, it's good to be back. An old man with long hair awakens. He speaks. Not even death will prevent me from painting the sky red. Another man with unusual hair in the shape of a cannon snaps his eyes open. He runs his hands through his hair. Can the sorcerers of this era satiate my hunger? Two blonde incarnated sorcerers stare each other down. A man with paper covering his body speaks. How about we work together with this whole culling game thing? The shorter one narrowed his eyes. Don't get in my way. He shrugged. Sounds fair to me. They shook each other's hands. Kia. Screaming people could be seen as a naked old man with a mustache was running around a marketplace. His eyes were widened. Katana. 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 Where is a katana? Wee woo. Turning around, he looked to see people in uniforms chasing him. He spun around and looked at them. Do you know where a katana is? Elsewhere in another location, a teenager sleeps. Baitum. His heart beats. Baitum. Cursed energy starts rising. Baitum. Black tattoos start to fade onto his body. Baitum. It has since long surpassed the rank of special grade. The beating stops. Small slits appear at the sides of his face, revealing extra eyes. He slowly sits up as his eyes gradually open. The teenager speaks and shoots up. What a wonderful era to be awakened. Ha 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 ha. He has a wide smile from ear to ear, showing his teeth. Now, where can I find that brat that touched my soul? Now hero they have started. Since I felt Tengen's presence disappear, I shot toward Jujutsu High. It was the weekend, so I planned on going out, but it looks like I'll be busy for a little while. I narrow my eyes as a little Shikigami speaks up. Ring, ring, ring. However, I ignore it to search for Tengen. It blinks and screams. Ring, ring, ring. I send it a glare. Shut up, I'm busy. It looks a little offended but follows me in my sprint. Welcome to the Culling Games. I'm your personal assistant, Kogain. I don't respond. He has a tick mark on his head. Would you like to participate in the Culling Games? Grab. I pull back my fist. I told you I'm busy. It squirms in my grip. I just wanted to tell you the rules. I move closer to it. So you scream in my ear. It starts to sweat. It's mandatory for joining players to enter the barrier. I scratch the back of my head. I know the rules. Give me the list of players. It blinks. Since you aren't a current player, you don't have points and cannot create a rule. Henceforth, you can't enter the barrier. However, I smile as I grip harder. If you're going to be a useless assistant, you aren't needed. Kogain's eyes widened, and he sweated more. Wait, wait, wait. Since you ask nicely, I'll do it for you, haha. A menu appeared. 1. Dhruv Lakdawala, 25 points. 2. Hajime Kashimo, 15 points. 3. Takako Yuro, 10 points. 3. Ryu Ishigori, 10 points. 4. Registar, 5 points. 5. Iori Hazanoki, 5 points. 6. Hiromi Higuruma, 2 points. 7. Hagain Dado, 1 point. 8. Others, 0 points. After reading them, I narrow my eyes at Kogain. Who are the others? He hastily speaks. If they have 0 points, they aren't recognized or shown. I let go of him. Useless. If the games have already started, then Kenjaku has taken Tengen. Since her tracking has been removed, I will likely need to clear out the Culling Games first. Instead of blindly rushing into this thing, I will throw everything we have at Kenjaku. Some stupid ceiling plan or random bullshit that might appear needs to be avoided at this point. He speaks up again. Would you like to participate? Slap. Boom. He goes flying into a building. No. Walking over to the debris, he can be seen with blood and cuts on him. I grab my chin. Then again, you would be useful in explaining the rules to people. Even while injured, Kogain looked like he wanted to strangle me. Well, let's get everybody together and take over this thing. Zenin Compound, 3rd POV. A group of this era's strongest sorcerers, and Yuta can be seen sitting around in the Zenin clan's main hall. Yuta will be doing his best. Shoko is the support healer. The main forces are Naoya, the lead, Hikari, Megumi, and Maki. Then, there are the era's strongest, Satoru Gojo and now Hero Zenin. The forces are much stronger than their other timelines, aside from Yuta, with Gojo surpassing his Shinjuku self to keep up with Nao Hiro. One of the teenagers raised his hand. Maki and I were supposed to deal with a curse. What exactly am I doing here? Nao Hiro smirked. Combat training. Maki facepalmed. He's not going to tell us much, is he? He gave her a closed-eye smile as he pointed at Kogain. Nope, but this guy will. Shoko could be seen holding Kogain, which had bandages all over it. She spoke up with an eyebrow raised. What the hell did he do? Naohiro smiled. His job. Shoko pets Kogain. Naohiro's just like that. Yuta spoke. Will Panda and Inamaki be joining us? Naohiro shook his head. They will get one shot, so they shouldn't bother. The teenage gambler spoke up with Karara lying on his lap. What did you bring us here for, old man? Unbothered by his comment, Naohiro spoke. If you haven't noticed, a lot of sorcerers and military personnel are running around. He threw his head back. Then do it yourself. Bonk. Hikari rubbed his head as Naohiro appeared a few inches from him. Get off your ass and be useful. You're one of the only people we have. Hikari sounded out his displeasure. Megumi spoke. Can I be useful without having Mahoraga? Naohiro raised an eyebrow. Not against the highest level sorcerers, but most of them are going to be at or below grade 1, so you shouldn't have a problem unless you encounter someone like Kashimo. He raises his own eyebrow. Who? Naohiro laughed. Haha, exactly. Ahem. Naohiro cleared his throat. It's time to tame him. After we finish this conference, you'll be joined by Maki to tame Mahoraga. This time, it's now or never. I'm not going to be joining you in the ritual. Judging by the look on his face, everyone could tell that he was extremely nervous. It might seem unusual, but sorcerers grow the most in dire combat. If Megumi doesn't have Naohiro to lean on, he can pull out his latent potential. Jumping Mahoraga with Maki will ensure that they will tame him. He isn't as strong as Sukuna's Mahoraga, after all. Naohiro turned serious. Even with all of our training, you're still 14 and not ready to tame him. However, circumstances make it so we need him on our side ASAP. Maki raised her hand. Can I use your curse tools? Playful Cloud won't be enough. Naohiro reached back and grabbed the sheathed soul splitter. Toss. As Maki grabbed it out of the air, Naohiro spoke. Use Playful Cloud and work with Megumi to weaken him as much as possible and then hit him with a final strike using this. Mahoraga must be dealt with using a single large-scale attack, which neither of you has. Maki narrowed her eyes but nodded. Naohiro turned to the crowd. Now then, this gremlin right here is Kogain. He's annoying but knows everything about the event that Kenjaku called the Culling Games. Gojo raised an eyebrow. Isn't he in Tengen's barrier? He sighed. He somehow escaped and took Tengen with him. It's why I can't clear out this whole thing myself since I need help with whatever he's got planned with her. That got everyone to widen their eyes aside from Gojo. Ever since that day, Gojo has seen Tengen as nothing more than another one of the disgusting higher-ups who should be dead. Hikari spoke up. What will you and Gojo be doing since you both are freaks? Naohiro turned slightly serious. We will be going after Kenjaku. Megumi's mouth dropped. Oh my god, I pray for him. Gojo tilts his head back. Obviously, both of us are overkill, so I'm assuming Naohiro has a reason since he isn't stupid. Naoya spoke up. Ryaman Sukuna, right? Naohiro nodded. If he has a chance of showing up, we both need to go. It would be a rough fight individually, but we can deal with him if we jump him together. Naoya returned the nod. What about Choso? Suddenly, Gojo's and Naohiro's eyes snapped to the compound's entrance. Choso stood at the front and looked at Naohiro. I'm joining. I'm going to kill the Ice Lady and find Yuji. Naohiro's eyes widened for a moment but turned back to normal. Of course, Yuram is alive. I'm unsure how, but she's most likely the cause. Choso walked over and sat down. What is the plan? Naohiro pondered for a moment. Yuram will likely be near Sukuna if he is incarnated, so you might not get the opportunity, but you can come with Gojo and me to remove her from the picture if she shows up. Kogain will explain the rules first. Naoya pondered for a moment. I'm assuming the Shikigami can tell us everything? Kogain spoke. Will I die if I speak? Now Hiro gave him a small smile. You have permission to speak. A short explanation later, Yuta spoke up first. Sendai Colony. That's where Rika is. Naoya narrowed his eyes. We become players and kill each other for points, creating rules during the event. Yuta stood up. I'm going to Sendai. Now Hiro facepalmed. Stop acting like a shounen protagonist and sit down. His face reddened, and he hid his face in embarrassment. Now Hiro spoke up. In conclusion, we will split up in the colonies after joining. We get randomly teleported, so if you want to go to a certain colony, you will need to go there yourself. Yuta started sweating. Now Hiro raised an eyebrow. If you're that nervous, use the power of friendship. He looked defeated but turned serious. I don't care what I have to do. I'll ensure that she is all right. Everyone felt secondhand cringe but ignored it. Now Hiro turned to Kogain. Kogain, we would like to participate in the culling games. Kogain mumbled but complied. Make your way to the barrier, and then you will be transported. Now Hiro turned to Maki and Megumi. You both will join us after taming Mahoraga. Shoko will be here to heal the both of you after you fight him. Sakurajima Colony, 5 points have been added. The pink-haired teenager spoke up. What a waste of time. All of this era's sorcerers are trash. I came here to find the brat, but he was nowhere to be found. Shikigami, add a rule that allows players to see faces and locations of players. Kogain spoke up. You don't have Inu-slice. One of Kogain's wings got slashed off. He smirked. What was that? Kogain bleeds on the ground. A rule has been added. Players can now see the faces of others and their colony locations. Sukuna grabs Kogain and heals him using reverse curse technique. Give me the list. Kogain rapidly nods as a menu appears in front of him. Sukuna put a hand on his chin. Not here. Well, he will be joining eventually. Wait, is that Uram? A wide smile shows on his face. Tokyo number 1 colony. Now Hiro spoke up. Alright, everyone, let's get this thing started. Yuta, you can wait for Maki and Potentialmon if you want so you can run into more allies. He shook his head. I need to check on Rika as soon as possible. Now Hiro gave him a side glance. She had an opportunity to leave when the game started. If she is still inside, she could be considered a player. Watch both of your backs. Naoya spoke. If you find past sorcerers, run. Hikari tilted his head to the side. Why did you bring him if he's going to run around? Now Hiro smirked. You don't need to run, Yuta. You have as much, if not more, potential than Potentialmon. This experience can make you strong. However, Naoya is somewhat right. Kashimo, Yuro, Druve, and Ryu are all off the table for you. Gojo took off his blindfold. Now Hiro, let's ignore the randoms. This whole thing is going to waste time. Now Hiro cracked his neck. Alright, let's meet on the other side. Plop. With that, the group pushed inside the barrier, aside from one. Hikari yawned. Domain expansion, idle death gamble. At the Zenin compound, Megumi can be seen talking to Tsumaki. I'm going to fight Mahoraga. She looked at him like he was stupid. Wait for Now Hiro to come back, dummy. He sighed. This is going to be my final attempt. Either I die or tame the strongest Shikigami ever to exist. Her eyes widened. Are you suicidal? You haven't even come close to beating that thing yet. Megumi smiled. We are going to a small war, so I will tame it with Maki. With her help, we'll be able to take it down. She turned away from him. Why are you telling me this if you're so confident? Megumi laid back. Because if he adapts too fast, there is a likelihood that we will lose. While we should be able to do it, I might die. Now Hiro wouldn't tell me this if he didn't think I could handle it with Maki. Tsumaki ran her fingers through his hair. I'll trust you. He smiles. Maybe he'll call me by my name after this. Slide. Maki spoke up. Stop flirting with your sister, and let's do this thing. Megumi was immune to people's teasing since he was used to it. As long as Tsumaki was safe, he could care less about what other people thought. Getting up, he left Tsumaki's room and followed Maki to the training ground. Megumi moved his arms and clenched his hands into fists. "You ready, Maki?" Unwrapping the cloth, she pulled out red nunchucks. "Yeah, summon him." The special grade curse tool is known as Playful Cloud. It was one of the tools taken during the fight with Toji Fushiguro. After reaching grade 1 levels of strength, Naohiro gifted it to her. While it doesn't contain a curse technique, it amplifies the user's power based on their physical capabilities. For one with a heavenly restriction, the boost is massive. He clenched his fists harder. "With this treasure, I summon 8-handled sword Divergent Sila Divine General Mahoraga." A cocoon cracks open, revealing a white behemoth with wing-like eyes and a golden wheel above his head. Megumi shouts, "Tiger Funeral, Totality, Merged Beast Korori." Korori moves and grabs Mahoraga, holding him in place. Whack. Maki rushes in and smacks Mahoraga across the face with Playful Cloud. Boom. Mahoraga goes flying and smashes through a stone wall. Since a technique isn't imbued in the cursed tool, Mahoraga has nothing to adapt to. He swings his arm to remove the dust and debris and stands up. Instead of rushing in to fight, he looks around worriedly. Using this short period of time, Megumi sends Korori to Mahoraga to hold him off. Megumi makes a shadow sign. Piercing ox. Before Korori reaches Mahoraga, the Divine General looks straight at Megumi and smiles. Megumi narrowed his eyes. He figured out Naohiro isn't here. Mahoraga jumps at Korori to smash it into the ground. A voice speaks from behind him. "Nothing personal." Whack. Mahoraga gets slammed into the ground after getting hit in the head again, removing part of his face in the process. Even against Shikigami, Maki is nearly invisible to all due to the properties her heavenly restriction gives her. Pushing himself up, Mahoraga swings behind him as half his face heals. Bam. He gets rammed by an ox from the side. Squelch. Korori bites into his neck, attempting to rip his head off. Clank. Piercing attacks, one of Korori's main offensive capabilities, are being adapted. Grab. Mahoraga grabs the mouth of Korori and puts a hand on the top and bottom of his jaw to rip his head apart. However, Megumi isn't the only person he should be worrying about. Whack. He gets a Playful Cloud strike to the stomach, removing his grip from Korori. Mahoraga throws a punch at Maki. Boom. Using her left hand, she catches Mahoraga's fist. Bam. She kicks him in the stomach, making spit fly out of his mouth. Korori jumps at Mahoraga with a roar and shoots his claws towards his stomach. Megumi made another hand sign. New. Mahoraga threw his arm forward to slice Korori in half with the Sword of Extermination. BTZ. He gets shortly paralyzed by Nu's lightning as it clips the side of Mahoraga with its claws. Using the short moment, Maki and Korori attack Mahoraga. Bam. Splat. Maki grabs Mahoraga's face and knees it before wrapping Playful Cloud around its neck while Korori impales him. Clank. Kick. As Mahoraga's wheel spun, Maki used the lock to shoot her feet into his face. Angry, Mahoraga grabs Maki's legs and throws her off of him. Slice. Without the threat of Maki, Mahoraga uses the Sword of Extermination to cut Korori in half. Megumi's eyes widened. Bam. He gets a direct punch to the face and gets sent into a wall. Maki attacks him from behind with a kick but gets a back fist. She moves her forearm up to block most of the damage before she goes flying once more. Maki rolls before shooting up while Playful Cloud is on the ground beside Mahoraga. However, Maki noticed something. He's slowing down. Maki reaches behind her and unwraps the split soul katana from Naohiro. As she was about to move, she heard Megumi speak from the debris with a large gash on his face. Potential this, potential that. He stood up. After trying over and over again, I've come to realize something. Stomp. Stomp. Mahoraga makes his way towards Megumi with a smile. A maniacal smile appears on Megumi's face. Who gives a shit? Even though Maki can join the subjugation ritual, she isn't considered an outsider. This means that if Megumi loses, he will die, and the ritual will end. Megumi speaks up. Maki, I don't want help anymore. Mahoraga stopped before Megumi and raised his arms in a haymaker position. She widened her eyes as Megumi put his hands together. It's all or nothing. Let's end this potential man shit. Domain expansion, Chimera Shadow Garden. A black barrier forms around Mahoraga and Megumi. Behind him are two columns of a spinal bone with bow-shaped ropes tied and roots attached. Chimera Shadow Garden is Megumi Fushigiro's domain expansion. The incomplete version spreads out liquid shadows, allowing the user to conjure multiple Shikigami and manipulate shadows to the highest degree. In an enclosed barrier, the target will fall into the liquid shadow if cursed energy isn't applied to the feet, making them unable to breathe and fall indefinitely. The drawback of the incomplete version is that the user experiences a massive drain of cursed energy because of its inefficiency without a proper sure hit. However, if the domain is completed, the user can mix and match all shadows inside the domain, and every Shikigami manipulated becomes a sure hit. Mahoraga swung down at Megumi. Splash. However, instead of Megumi, a liquid shadow clone exploded in his face as he started falling through the floor. Clank. He caught himself before falling into the shadows. Splat. Megumi spoke from behind Mahoraga as he got a claw through his stomach. Tiger Funeral, Totality, Merged Beast Korori. Shadowgraphic hand signs are no longer needed inside of the domain expansion. Clank. Mahoraga turned around and grabbed Korori's face to smash it in. Splat. 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 4 totalities appear out of thin air, already having claws ripped through Mahoraga's stomach, legs, arms, and head. Mahoraga could do nothing, as he couldn't adapt fast enough to the sure hit of the domain. Whoosh. The domain shatters as Mahoraga disappears. Megumi gave a genuine smile as he fell to his knees. Damn you, no hero Zenin. He passed out. Sendai Colony, a teenager falls from the sky. I was just on the ground. Kogain flew next to Yuta. Welcome to Sendai. I'll be your personal Kogain for your stay here. Grab. Instead of listening, Yuta held onto Kogain to slow his descent. It protested with a tick mark. Hey, you can't use me. Slip. Kogain flew out from his grip, and Yuta started falling faster. Dash boom. He faceplanted on concrete. Contrary to expectations, his only injuries were a tear in his black uniform and a few scratches on his arms and legs. Had Yuta not had an immense amount of cursed energy, he would have died. Yuta pushes himself up. Ugh. Bastard, I'm new to this sorcerer thing and I'm already in a damn war. He got up, went to a public bench, and sat down. What colony am I in? Yuta Okatsu, picture 0 points location, Sendai Colony, he sighed in relief. Yuta shook his head. Enough complaining. I need to find out where Rika is. Hey Kogain, can you show me other players? Kogain nodded with a smile. A new rule has been added that allows players to see the faces and colony locations for all players. Yuta bit his thumb. Is Rika Orimoto a player? Without missing a beat, Kogain pulled up Rika's profile with her face. Rika Orimoto, picture 3 points location, Sendai Colony. Yuta's eyes widened. She has points? Kogain, how do you get points again? Kogain nodded. Points are added once players are eliminated. Points are given based on the person eliminated and the amount of points. Yuta gulped. What do you mean by eliminated? Kogain smiled. Killed. His heart sank. Rika killed people? Kogain loudly replied. Yep. She eliminated 3 non-sorcerer players. Yuta's eyes widened further. 3. Just what the hell is happening to her? The Rika I know wouldn't hurt, let alone kill anyone. Meanwhile, many people are seen screaming and running away from someone. A teenage girl had wide eyes and was waving a knife around. I'm not dying until I marry Yuta. I'll kill all of you before you take him away from me. Back to Yuta. Yuta pondered for a moment. Kogain, can you bring me to her? Kogain flew back and forth. You need points to create a rule. Yuta stood up. If that's the case, I'll need to get some points. Kogain, list the people with the most points in Sendai. Sendai Colony. 1. Dhruv Lakdawala. Picture 60 points. 2. Takako Euro. Picture 50 points. 3. Ryu Ishigori. Picture 45 points. Yuta blinked and rubbed his eyes. Those names, you've got to be kidding me. He was told to avoid a select few people, 3 of whom were in his colony. He sighed. What am I going to do for points? Bang. His eyes widened as he turned to see a bullet an inch in his side. Ha! Blood started to seep out of his uniform. The bullet didn't go through his body due to his natural toughness but was amplified using cursed energy. Bang. A louder shot is heard. Close. He reflexively closed the train doors to the side where the shot came from, protecting himself. Pop. Usually, train doors wouldn't stop a high-powered gunshot amplified using cursed energy, but Yuta has more cursed energy than Satoru Gojo, so they are naturally reinforced, even if the doors were created by reflex. Yuta grabbed his side. Damn it, I guess I have to start small for now. This combat training is going to get me killed. I don't care what I have to do. I'll get you out of here, Rika. Tokyo No. 1 Colony. A blonde-haired man with receipts covering his body is discussing plans with a group of people. The leader, or Reggie, speaks. If I can get enough points, I can make a rule that allows us to share points. Hazanoki speaks up. So, send Remy to lure people? She shouts in protest. You trying to kill me? Reggie grabs her hair. We can always kill you right now. She sweats and nods. All right, I'll do it. Music blares across the streets as Hikari runs around and takes out randoms for points. He sighs. I have 2 minutes left before I need to re-roll. Hikari turns his head when he hears a voice. Help me. A girl with scorpion-like hair runs over to him. Hikari spoke up. Kogain, is she a player? Remy, picture 0 points. He rolled his eyes, useless and annoying. Obvious bait. Hikari readied his fists. She stopped a few feet in front of him. Hold on, wait, and listen to what I say. I have a group of sorcerers after me. That got his attention. What direction are they in? She smiles. A few blocks down, turn right at the corner, and it's the second building. They are all camping out there. Hikari smirks. Thanks. Bam. He punches her in the face and sends her flying. Kogain speaks. You have earned 2 points. Suddenly, Hikari turns toward the roof of a building and smiles. Boom. Hikari speaks up as his right arm gets blown off. That wasn't bad. It instantly heals. Hazanoki spoke up with sarcasm. Didn't know you would kill a girl in trouble. Hikari crossed his arms. She ain't my type. He raises an eyebrow before smiling and ripping out a few of his own teeth. Hikari narrowed his eyes as Hazanoki flung them toward his location. He jumped back. Boom. Hikari spoke up with a smile. Turning your body into an explosive. Kinda cool. I wonder what your fever is like. His attention gets broken as he turns his head to see a truck fly towards him at high speed. Hikari pulled back his fist. Not today, Truck-kun. Bam. It gets sent flying back towards the user of the technique. A man with receipts on his body jumps out of the way with a surprised look on his face. You're strong. Hazanoki, don't hold anything back against this guy. Hazanoki instantly spoke back. Watch it. He has a crazy reverse curse technique. Hikari cracks his fists with a smirk. I don't know what you're talking about. I can't use the reverse curse technique. They narrowed their eyes but widened them when they felt Hikari's cursed energy rise. He was telling the truth to get a boost to his statistics using a binding vow. Reggie tears off multiple receipts, and Hazanoki rips an eye out. Hikari thought to himself. 1 minute is plenty for these guys. Tokyo No. 2 Colony. A man with 2 hair buns and a staff sits around a group of corpses. That makes 75 points. He puts his hands on his chin. Only 25 more until I make my way to Sukuna. The man known as Hajime Kashimo stands up with a smile. I've got to thank Sukuna for telling me exactly where he is. I'll finally get to see the strongest sorcerer in history. Whoosh. His eyes widen, and he raises his arms to block an incoming punch. Fast. However, instead of being punched, he feels a tap on his side as a blur flashes. Kashimo was confused until he became frozen in a frame. The blur arrives in front of him. Crash. The frame smashes, and he gets sent flying into a wall. Boom. The blur spoke up. I expected more from someone with 75 points. Kashimo spoke from the debris as he stood up with a fist mark on his chest. And who might you be? The man spoke. Naoya Zenin. Special grade sorcerer. Kogain showed Kashimo his profile. Naoya Zenin, picture 25 points. Kashimo cracked his neck with a smile. Special grade, huh? You're pretty quick, but that's about it. You don't have much power behind that speed. Naoya looked down at him from the top of a shipping container and flicked his hand to remove the residual electricity. That lightning trait you have is pretty troublesome, Hajime Kashimo. Kashimo moved into a fighting stance. Looks like I don't need an introduction. You're just the person I was looking for. After I take you down, I'll meet Sukuna. That got Naoya's attention. He narrowed his eyes. Sukuna, huh? Kashimo's smile widened. After I'm done with you, I'm going over there to fight him. Naoya smirked. Too bad my brother is going to beat you to it. Kashimo raised an eyebrow. Brother. Naoya shakes his head. It doesn't matter. You aren't going to be alive to see him or Sukuna after all. Lightning exploded, amplifying Kashimo's physical abilities. We'll see about that, won't we, Naoya Zenin? They both vanish from their places. Sakurajima Colony Amun was flying above the colony. So, Sukuna is here. It goes against the plan. I'll need to get 100 points to create a rule if I want to move colonies. Now Hiro is in the Lake Gasho colony, so it will take a bit for him to cross over here. As he landed on the ground, he noticed that the streets were empty, with his 6 eyes unable to sense anyone nearby, aside from 2. Gojo narrowed his eyes. It looks like Sukuna cleared it out. Slash. An invisible slash comes toward Gojo but does nothing, as the rest of the slash cuts the building behind him in half. He speaks up. Not how I imagined meeting the King of Curses, but still an interesting experience. Sukuna instantly appears opposite from Gojo. He could be seen using a teleportation-based curse technique by any normal sorcerer, but it was raw speed. Sukuna was much faster than even Naoya. The King of Curses speaks with a smirk and his hands in his pockets. You must be Satoru Gojo, given that you aren't the brat and you were able to avoid dying. Gojo cracked his knuckles. This will be fun. Facing someone strong other than Naohiro will be interesting. Sukuna raised an eyebrow. Interesting, is it? I'll need to take care of you before the brat shows up. Sukuna isn't stupid. After meeting with Uram, she filled him in on the current era sorcerers, including the Limitless and Naohiro's adaptation techniques. He would take them head-on if he weren't limited by his current body. Yuji Itadori was created to be a cage for Sukuna. The issue with his current vessel is that Yuji will take control in time, and he can only incarnate into his true form for a few minutes at a time before reverting back to Yuji. Since Yuji took Sukuna's full power at once while Kenjaku activated Idle Transfiguration, it will take him a few hours to take over. While limited in his vessel, Sukuna currently has access to his full power, as Uram was able to bring him to full strength using 19 fingers and his mummified corpse. Since he is restricted, he can bring up a few cards specifically for these subsequent fights with the modern era's strongest. After meeting with Kenjaku, he found exactly what he needed. A way to transcend even his Heian form. The merger. Tokyo No. 1 Colony. Choso that is 2 sorcerers down. Kogain spoke up. You have earned 20 points. They thought they could take on new players, but their plane and helicopter curse techniques didn't match up well against me. While disappointing, they gave me valuable points. I need 100 points to change colonies. Creating a rule using points will allow me to make my way towards Yuji. Narrowing my eyes, I speak up. Kogain, show Yuji Itadori's profile. Yuji Itadori. Picture 483 points. Location: Sakurajima Colony. So, that's what my brother looks like. My eyes widened as I saw his points. Kogain. List every player in the Sakurajima Colony. 1. Yuji Itadori. 483 points. 2. Uram. 10 points. 3. Hagain Dado. 3 points. 4. Satoru Gojo. 0 points. No way, there are only 4 left. Unconsciously, my fists clench. They were right. Can I really do nothing to save my brother? I have come to terms with risking my life. However, going after Sukuna would not accomplish anything. The only ones who have a chance of taking him down are the modern era's strongest sorcerers. I have to trust them. Kogain, show me the person with the most points in Tokyo No. 1 colony. For now, I'll work on creating a rule to travel colonies. I failed once, but I will not fail again. Looking down at the list Kogain displayed, I narrowed my eyes on a single individual. Hiromi Higuruma. Picture 96 points. And I'll start with you, Hiromi Higuruma. Sendai Colony Bang. Yuta cursed. Damn, it's fast. The random assailant spoke up. It's a bullet, dumbass. Since Yuta doesn't have Rika to take the burden of multiple curse techniques, Yuta can only copy one technique at a time. Currently, the slot is used by Hikari's private pure love train. Without having access to Hikari's domain expansion, the best he can do is spawn shutter doors. While usually ineffective without additional techniques like domain expansion, someone with Yuta's cursed energy reserves can use it to a much higher degree than Hikari. Yuta thought to himself, if I use more cursed energy in the technique, the doors can become more durable. So, what would happen if I apply that to offense? Click. The Mun reloads his sniper. However, close. Yuta slams his hands together, making train doors appear and slamming them shut on the random assailant. Slice. He gets cut in half. The Mun screams. Ah, it hurts. The Mun crawls towards him, with half of his body missing. He coughs up blood. Kill me. Yuta stutters. I thought you were stronger. The Mun gurgles blood, and Kogain makes an announcement. You have gained 5 points. Yuta puts his hands on his knees. I'm gonna be sick. He gags but doesn't throw up. His first kill was brutally mutilating another human. Yuta stood up and shook his head. I have to move. Rika is in trouble. Suddenly, Yuta snaps his head towards distant yelling. Run, she's crazy. Yuta spoke up. Kogain, who are those people? Before rushing in and doing something stupid, Yuta decided to figure out the players who he might be engaging. Rika Orimoto. Picture 5 points. Random civilian. Picture 0 points. She had gained 2 more points in the time that Yuta fought the random assailant. He blinked and saw an average Mun running from a short girl, waving around something. Yuta narrowed his eyes. Is that Rika? Without missing a beat, he started running in her direction. As he got closer and closer, Yuta saw that she was carrying a 10-inch kitchen knife that had blood on it. He narrowed his eyes and screamed, Rika. She stopped, but that didn't stop the Mun from running past Yuta to escape the Yandere. Clank. She drops her kitchen knife. Rika's eyes start to water as she is covered in blood. Yuta. Bam. Yuta gets taken off guard as he gets tackled. She sobs in his clothes. I missed you. Yuta was flabbergasted. What happened to you? Rika looks at him with warm eyes, a complete 180 from what they looked like a few seconds ago. It doesn't matter now that you're here. He starts sweating but shakes his head. She is all right. That is all that matters. In another location, a Mun with a cannon-shaped hairstyle rests his chin on his fist. He narrows his eyes as he sees an interesting individual. I haven't seen him around here. Kogain, show me. Yuta Okatsu. Picture 5 points. His eyes were locked in on a teenager with an insane amount of cursed energy. He smirked. While that Sky Lady is dealing with Druv, let's see how he reacts to a Granite Blast. If I'm lucky, he can be an appetizer before I kill the winner of Druv and the Sky Lady. Since Yuta is new to Jujutsu, he hasn't yet learned how to properly control his massive cursed energy pool, meaning that skilled sorcerers can sense him from miles away. Unfortunately for Yuta, his reserves can make other sorcerers overestimate him by his cursed energy alone, making him a prime target for elimination. Buzz. Cursed energy gathered at the end of his hair. Snap. Ryu Ishigori snaps his fingers. Granite blast. BTZ phew. As Yuta hugs Rika, he feels something wrong. He hasn't been a sorcerer long but knows the feeling of a large cursed energy discharge. Time slows down as he turns to the side and sees a large beam heading straight toward him and Rika. Without missing a beat, he turns his back to the blast to shield Rika and reinforces his body with as much cursed energy as he can muster. She looks him in the eyes. Yuta. Boom. An explosion goes off. The dust clears to a Yuta with his shirt torn, charred back, and blood all over his face. Yuta musters a word. Cough. Rika. He looks up to see Rika staring straight at him with the entire right side of her body missing, lifeless. Yuta crawls over to her. His eyes start to water. Rika. For some odd reason, he no longer felt any pain since he was focusing on the person in front of him. He grabbed the remaining side of her face. Rika. As if it registered, tears started streaming down his face. He screamed. Ah. Holding the half of her body close to him, he wails. Grab. His eyes open back up as he feels something holding onto his leg. Yuta. A white creature pulls itself up from beneath him. More specifically, a curse. Not just any curse or any vengeful curse. Yuta widens his eyes as he can't move an inch due to her grip on his leg. In the original timeline, Rika died when she was 11. Her extreme emotion towards Yuta and his potential as a future special-grade sorcerer made her the queen of curses. However, she grew up with him in this timeline and developed love and warmth towards him. Her feelings only grew as they lived together. Her feelings for him solidified more and more until she would go as far as killing without a second thought to keep him all to herself. Yuta was also 11, meaning that the combination of Yuta's current state as a sorcerer and Rika's monstrous emotion that developed created something evil. A monster. The Queen of Curses, Rika Orimoto. Lake Gasho Colony. The entire colony is destroyed. Disaster struck as fire and vegetation covered the land. Now Hiro spoke. Well, this isn't how I expected to join the culling games. Kogain, show me a list of players. Jogo, picture 215 points. Hanami, picture 158 points. Now Hiro Zenin, picture 0 points. Now Hiro's eyes narrowed, and he thought to himself. 3 of us are left. It isn't time for them to show up yet. They should still have a few months before birth, but it makes sense given the screwed-up timeline. He noticed there was a name missing. Now Hiro pondered for a moment. Where is Dagon? He was a cursed womb up until Shibuya, so he is probably not born or not ready at this time. He smirked as a voice spoke behind him. He, so there is still one rat alive. Now Hiro turned around. Who might you be, Volcano Head? Plop. Boom. A mini volcano appeared and shot an insane amount of fire, covering the entirety of Now Hiro. Volcano Head, or Jogo, turned around and waved his cape. Disappointing, just like the rest. However, he froze when he heard a voice speak up. Disappointing, am I? Since this is the culling games, I assumed some random incarnated sorcerer from the Heian era would have exorcised you. The smoke clears to an unharmed Now Hiro. He turned back around, flabbergasted. How did you survive that? Now Hiro shrugged. I guess I'm built different. Fire. The weakness of Now Hiro Zenin. Now Hiro needed to prepare for Sukuna, which meant he needed to be ready for Sukuna's ultimate move, the fire arrow, better known as Fuga. Since fire was Now Hiro's main weakness, he trained in the heart of a volcano to shoot his resistance to the absolute maximum. Like he had done in the past with resistance training, he used his massive cursed energy pool to amplify the temperature of the lava, making him nigh immune to all forms of fire. Training during these 8 years resulted in the new Now Hiro. The one without weakness. He scowled and raised his hands. Your curse technique won't allow you to survive forever. Now Hiro pondered for a moment. My curse technique, huh? You are somewhat right, but even if I used simple cursed energy reinforcement, that wouldn't be nearly enough to kill me. In the end, you are the disappointing one. Pop. The corks on his ears popped off. Boom. He screamed as fire burst from his head and ears. Bastard. I'll burn you slowly and make you wish you were dead. Jogo moves his hands together. Grab. Now Hiro suddenly appears behind him and grabs his cape. Jogo blinks. He slowly turns toward Now Hiro, who stares at him with a wide smile. I've heard people talk about your durability. Let's see how durable you really are. Whoosh. Now Hiro throws Jogo. Boom. Boom. He smashes through 3 skyscrapers. Purple blood escapes him as he loses an arm and a quarter of his face, with numerous gashes all over his body. Time slows as he continues to fly through the air for what seems like an eternity. Jogo widened his eye in horror as he couldn't see himself move before he had already smashed through buildings. He didn't pay attention to any of his injuries, as he could only think of one thing. He's strong. As the thought flashed before Jogo, someone appeared behind him while he was still in the sky. Now Hiro raised his arms and delivered a haymaker. I'll give you a May 10th. Boom. Jogo gets slammed into the concrete. He slowly stands up and sees Now Hiro a few inches from his face. Jogo screams. Domai-bam. Blah. He faceplants back into the ground as he throws up purple blood. Curses can heal from just about any injury if they have cursed energy. His body was rapidly healing, but he still didn't move from his position. He didn't want to move. He knew there was no point in trying. Curses are beings made up of negative emotions and fears. However, one thing was for certain. They can feel fear. The fear of knowing you are helpless to do anything. The fear of being at someone else's mercy. The fear of certain death. In the other timeline, Jogo fought 15-Finger Sukuna, who incentivized him to fight back by tempting him to work with him if he landed a single hit, but he knew he wouldn't be able to beat him. He also fought Satoru Gojo, who was significantly holding back, only using his abilities to show Yuji Jujutsu rather than necessity. This gave him a lesson on the strength that Jujutsu sorcerers can have. The same lesson that Now Hiro was teaching him. This version of Jogo was only recently born and did not understand the Jujutsu hierarchy. Since Now Hiro is immune to his volcanoes, he could try 2 things, Maxima Meteor and Domain Expansion, Coffin of the Iron Mountain. However, he has already proven too fast for him to form a domain, his ultimate trump card. He could try using Maxima Meteor, but it would take too long and be too slow to put a scratch on Now Hiro. Now Hiro spoke. Since Kenjaku brought you here, I hoped you guys would have been stronger than your other versions. That couldn't help but give Jogo a questioning gaze. Other versions. Now Hiro nodded. Yeah, speaking of which, where is your buddy? I thought they would come here to help you. Jogo narrowed his eye. Crack. The floor below Now Hiro cracked. Boom. A massive wooden branch exploded from beneath him. Now Hiro smiled as he tilted his head back as the branch went past him. A distorted voice spoke. I'll kill you. Now Hiro kept his smile. Hey, Hanami. I was getting tired of throwing this trash around the city. Hanami's shoulder opened. Now Hiro widened his eyes. Hanami yelled. Domain expansion, shining sea of growing branches. A wooden barrier forms around everyone in the vicinity as a massive blue tree appears in the center of a field of flowers. The flowers that Hanami summons can take away someone's will to fight. However, with someone like Now Hiro. Clink. It doesn't work. Creak. Jogo gets covered in a small wooden shelter to protect him. Now Hiro keeps his hands in his pockets with a smile. Hanami pushes his hand forward as cursed energy buds appear on Now Hiro's body. A sound played in Now Hiro's head. Clink. Adapted. In the past, adaptations required multiple interactions or clinks, but binding vows can speed up the adaptation process for smaller, less complex techniques, making it near instant. He learned this with his experience in using binding vows on Tungan's barrier. Cursed energy is sacrificed, but it is almost irrelevant to someone with as much energy as him. Contrary to Hanami's expectations, The cursed buds screamed and exploded. Hanami took a step backward. The cursed buds didn't fail. They were overloaded with cursed energy. Hanami thought to himself, "How much cursed energy does this man have? It's never ending." Now Hiro cracked his neck. I guess it's time to end this. I better catch up with Gojo so we can kill Kenjaku and Sukuna. It turns out that he was incarnated, which messes up the plan a little, but we can both take him down. Hanami pushes his hands up. Die. Roots. Now Hiro smirks in the face of the rapid branches being formed. He brings his hands together as the branches become only inches from his face. Haven't used this in a while, but it's useful for curses. Domain expansion. Cycle of samsara, whoosh. The branches and field get overwritten as a desert replaces them. Curses are made up of entirely cursed energy. So, what would happen if your sure hit attack removed cursed energy? Jogo and Hanami start to disintegrate. Sizzle. They both disappear nearly instantly. Kogain spoke. You have been awarded 373 points. Now Hiro smiled. Kogain, make a rule that allows players to transfer to different colonies. Kogain announced. A rule has been added. All players can change colonies if they reach the edge of their barrier. Now Hiro laughed. Watch out because I'm coming for you, fraud. Humiliating him with Gojo would be pretty fun. Gij isn't here, but I'll make it Jumpjutsu Kaisen. Boom. He turned towards the edge of the barrier and jumped. Sendai Colony Yuta looked horrified as a monstrous curse with razor-sharp teeth towered over him. He stuttered. Arika. She put her massive clawed hand on Yuta's cheek and gave a horrific smile. Don't worry, Yuta, I can protect you now. Similarly to cursed Naoya, she could think and act according to the time when she was alive. Rika was 11 when she died, meaning her personality and mind were those of a child. This means that she has the full personality she did when she was 15. Now, she only wanted to do one thing. Keep him all to herself, no matter what she had to do to achieve it. The last thing Yuta felt was reassured. He only panicked more. Yuta noticed something strange. He wasn't amplifying himself with cursed energy, but he felt stronger than ever before. Like he was invincible. After being injured, Rika reinforced his body with more cursed energy than he could ever muster. Rika was protecting him. If someone wanted to hurt Yuta, they would have to go through her first. She spoke up in a distorted tone. I'll keep you safe. Yuta didn't know what to say or do. He could do nothing as the strongest vengeful curse ever created prevented him from even moving. Since she made a scene, non-sorcerers, sorcerers, and military personnel surrounded him, realizing that he would be worth lots of points and that she could become a danger if left unchecked. Unfortunately for them, Rika wouldn't stand around and do nothing as people showed hostility to her future husband. Bang. A shot was fired, and as if it were a bell, everyone rushed in to kill the cursed child. Yuta widened his eyes. W8, get away from me. Splat. Kogain spoke. You have gained 8 points. Before anyone could react, 3 people were instantly killed by a single punch. The previous Rika became as strong as she was due to her possessiveness, emotions, and love for Yuta. These emotions only grew as she aged. Which means that the current Rika is even stronger. Splat. Bam. Spurt. Yuta could only watch as countless people exploded and were dismembered. His eyes watered. Rika, stop it. Kogain made announcement after announcement, but that only made Yuta cover his ears. Splat. She killed another 4 military personnel. At this point, she didn't care what Yuta wanted her to do. She would ensure that no one could lay a finger on him. Northwest one even came close to scratching her. It was a massacre. When people realized that it was hopeless, they started to run. Instead of staying still, she curled around Yuta to shield him and dragged him over to the other people who attacked the both of them. Amun turned his gaze behind him, but he was greeted with a mouth with razor-sharp teeth. Crunch. She bit into his body, removing everything from the head to the legs. Rika spit it out. Yuta was helpless as tears streamed down his face. Please, I don't want you to do this, Rika. Stop. Rika slowly turned towards him and moved her face inches from his own. I'm almost done, dear. He closed his eyes and held his ears while he silently cried as the screams were only muffled. The screams stopped after what felt like an eternity. Kogain spoke as Yuta uncovered his ears. You have gained 187 points. He opened his eyes. Blah. Yuta threw up as he saw the blood and countless body parts. His hands fell on the ground as Rika let him move. What have you done? What have I done? She moved close to him and spoke. We are finally alone. I've removed all of them for us. No one will hurt you anymore. Yuta looked at her with dead eyes. What have you done? I told you to stop. You killed all of them. Her eye opened. They were going to hurt you. You weren't safe. I made sure none of them could ever hurt you again. Stab. Rika looked down to see a sword going straight through her body. More specifically, the split soul sword. The attacker spoke up. Sorry, I'm late. I had to take out a different monster with the accomplishing mun. Yuta turned to Maki with a face that had lost all color and eyes that were empty. Run. Maki looked shocked. What the hell is this thing? His head dropped. It's Rika. Her eyes widened. Rika? As in your girlfriend? That Rika. Rika's eye gained red lines, showing her rage. You. Maki Zenin. Maki nodded. Yep, checks out. Scree. She screamed in pain. Shink. Maki pulled out the sword and brought it in front of her. Bam. Rika punches Maki, narrowly blocking it with her sword. Boom. She gets sent flying into a building. As she lies in the debris, she thinks to herself. What the hell is with that power? Had I taken it head-on, I would be in a rough shape. Drip. A thin line of blood trailed down from her head. Contrary to Rika's expectations, Maki got up and exited the debris with a small cut on her head to show for it. Veins appeared on Rika's face. You. Die, you pig. BTZ. A large amount of energy formed at the center of her eye. Maki's eyes widened as she dropped to the ground to avoid getting blasted by Rika's energy beam. Boom. Turning around, she saw that the buildings behind her were incinerated. Even the granite blast from before couldn't match it. Maki spoke up. Holy shit. Yuta. Put a leash on that thing. Yuta stayed on his knees. I can't. Her eyes rolled and then narrowed. Don't turn this into an anime cliché. Just control the crazy bitch, you dumbass. After a moment, Yuta stands up. He softly speaks. Rika, BTZ. Rika charges up another blast. Die. Yuta yells. Rika. I hate you. Rika freezes as the blast dies down. She slowly turns towards him and stutters. What? He shakes and looks her right in the eye. If you don't stop, I'll hate you forever. Maki cringed. Now Hiro was right. He really is an anime protagonist. Rika started shaking. But, she is trying to take you from me. He clenched his fists. If you see it that way, you don't love me. Rika grabs his shoulders. I do love you. Remember when you promised to marry me? Yuta's head dropped. I do remember, but you can't do it like this. If you don't care about what I think, I might as well not exist in your eyes. I'd be nothing but an object. She recoiled as her eye started to water. But I'd do anything for you. Yuta grabbed her face. You can protect me, but you need to understand how I feel. I have things I need to do, and I won't be able to do them if you treat me like an object. So, how about we make a deal? Maki gagged. Please stop, I'm going to hurl. Rika stops tearing up as she listens to Yuta. I promise never to hate you if you listen to me from now on. She tilted her head to the side. But I need to protect you. Yuta smiles. You remember when you protected me with cursed energy? You can always protect me if you keep doing that, and it's not like I will leave you all alone. Promise me that you will listen to me and protect me with cursed energy, and I will never hate you. She thinks for a moment before nodding and hugging Yuta. Yuta and Rika notice something strange. A vow was created. A binding vow. Suddenly, Rika descended into his shadow as another monster was tamed. Yuta sighed in relief and fell back. Thanks, Maki. Maki could be seen leaning against a wall, holding her stomach. I hated every second of that. You even got your cliché anime power-up. Whatever, at least that is taken care of. Clap. 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 The Mun who killed Rika in the first place appears on the other side of the street. Brought tears to my eyes. Forbidden love between curse and human. I saw you as an appetizer, but you might be my dessert. Maki stretches. Hey, Yuta. Yuta narrowed his eyes and stood up. Yeah, let's kick his ass. BTZ Ryu Ishigori smiled as he charged up a granite blast. The Cursed Child and the Invisible Woman versus the Mun with the highest cursed energy output in the culling games, aside from Rika. Sendai as both sides stared each other down, Ryu moved first. Quickly, he turned toward Yuta. Ryu spoke with a smile. Granite blast. BTZ phew. Maki moved to protect Yuta, but it was too fast. Since Yuta no longer had Rika protecting him, eliminating her before she could be fully manifested would put him ahead and make it a one-on-one fight between him and Maki. Yuta reacted and put both his hands in front of his face. SKRR boom. He caught it. Sizzle. Yuta looked at his hands in shock and saw they were only slightly burned. Kick. Maki threw a kick to the side of his head, but it was blocked by his forearm. Ryu had a wide smile. That wasn't bad. She brought her leg down and spun into a sword strike. Ryu Ishigori is known for his immense durability. Even Sukuna commented on it, needing Cleave to kill him when he was at 15 fingers. Maki noticed this, so switching to a durability negation sword would be the most efficient way to kill him. Whoosh. His eyes widened as he barely ducked under the strike. Ryu had a thought. That sword could pierce that thing, Rika. Getting hit by it would be nasty. Yuta stood still in shock as Maki swapped hands with Ryu. Ryu is an expert at hand-to-hand combat, and his durability makes him a tough opponent to take head-on. He could unmanifest a partially manifested Shikigami Rika with a single punch that was stated to be too much if she was at full power. So, even if Maki can land more destructive hits, it doesn't mean much if he can handle them. He smiled as he was directly in front of Maki. Granite blast. She crossed her arms in an X formation. Sizzle. It chars her arms, but she swings back. Bam. She punches him in the face. Maki looked irritated as she noticed Yuta wasn't doing anything. However, that blast felt familiar to Yuta. He whispered. So it was you. Ryu pushed Maki's hand up, avoiding another strike, but he had someone else to worry about. He turned as he saw a train door in front of his face. Bam. Yuta reinforced the train door, held onto it as a makeshift weapon, and slapped him across the face. A bruise appeared on Ryu's face. Using the moment to strike, Maki suddenly found herself behind him. Kick. She kicked him in the back. However, Ryu focused on the person in front of him. Bam. Ryu smiled as he punched Yuta across the face, but he noticed something was wrong. Yuta barely flinched as Ryu thought to himself. His body is reinforced like crazy. At this moment, Ryu realized that while Rika was unmanifest, she was feeding him her boundless cursed energy. Yuta raised the door as Ryu arrived in front of him. Bam. He slammed him down to the ground with the train door. Maki arrived above him and swung the split soul sword straight down to decapitate Ryu. He spoke while still face down in the rubble. Domain expansion, Celestial Sanctuary. A black barrier forms around everyone as the entire space turns white. At the last second, Ryu rolled away from Maki's strike. Slice. He didn't avoid everything, as he lost his right arm. Ryu speaks with a crazy smile. You both truly are a dessert. Granite missile, blasts of cursed energy explode from his body and shoot towards Yuta. Since Ryu's curse technique relies solely on cursed energy discharge, aiming them can be problematic. So, inside his domain, everyone trapped within becomes a target, as he can blast multiple attacks that act as homing missiles. Ryu turns towards Maki. Granite blast. He fires off a blast as he notices Maki isn't targeted by his can't-miss attacks. She has no cursed energy to lock onto. SKRR. She blocks it with the Soul Splitter. BTZ. Ryu smiles as he charges up another Granite Blast to shoot at Maki. Now that Okatsu is done with, grab. Yuta jumps out of the smoke and grabs his hair as it fizzles. Ryu's eyes widen as Yuta speaks in a somber tone. Rika. Splat. Crack. Shatter. Ryu's domain shatters as he sees a massive claw through his stomach. He slowly grins as he speaks, with blood coming out of his mouth. Thanks, kid, you filled my hunger. His eyes lose life as he goes limp, with Rika's arm being the only thing holding him up. Kogain speaks. You have earned 50 points. Yuta speaks with burn marks, a torn-up uniform, and blood all over his body. Rika, you can come out now. After those words, the massive creature instantly bursts out from his shadow and starts crying, not after tasting some of his blood to add a cursed technique to his arsenal. Yuta, you are hurt. While he was able to kill Ryu, he took 3 of Ryu's granite missiles. Even with Rika's cursed energy reinforcement, he still took hits that could have killed him. Maki spoke. That will never not get weird. In any case, use your points to create some rules. Yuta nods. Kogain, make a rule that allows players to leave the culling games if they sacrifice 100 points. Kogain gives an announcement. A player may leave the culling games if they sacrifice 100 points. He turns towards Maki. I need to see Shoko. I might die if I continue like this. Rika started sweating, but Maki nodded. I'll continue on. There are still a few players here that I'll need to take care of. Yuta turns toward Rika and smiles. Let's go back, Rika. She rapidly nods. I'll go wherever you do, dear. Yuta thought to himself and sighed. It's not like you have a choice. Smack. Maki slapped his back. You weren't bad today. Even though Rika did a lot of the heavy lifting, you didn't complain too much. Yuta raised an eyebrow. Thanks. With that, Maki waved and left Yuta. See ya. Rika gave him the side-eye but went back into his shadow. Elsewhere in Sendai, a woman spoke, injured from her previous fight. Huff. Huff. What an annoying technique. I can make a rule now that I have over 100 points. Druve wasn't easy to kill. Looking down, she saw cuts and bruises. She spoke up. Kogain, make a rule that allows players to heal their body after gaining more than 50 points at a time, including points earned before the rule was made. Kogain halted for a moment, seemingly thinking, before nodding. The Game Master has approved the rule. She fell down as her body started to visibly heal, as if she was using a reverse curse technique. Takako Yuro. An assassin from the Heian era. She uses sky manipulation to bend the space around her. Similarly to Ryu, she wants to excel in the culling games even if it means she must kill innocents. She rested her head back on a wall and spoke. Kogain, show me the players with the highest points in Sendai. Maki Zenin, picture 25 points Takako Yuro, picture 10 points Kasumi Miwa, picture 5 points her eyes widened. Ryu Ishigori was killed. According to the previous rankings, she assumed that she would have to fight Ryu at some point after killing Druve, but someone else got to him first. She thought to herself. Who killed him? 2 others have a few points, but they could have created a rule. If that's the case, it's most likely that Kasumi Miwa was the one who did it since she's in the top scorer list and has the least points, which makes sense after spending 100 points to create a rule. Takako Yuro couldn't help but start sweating when she thought of the strength someone would have to kill Ryu. Yuro doubted that she could kill Ryu in a head-on fight. She narrowed her eyes. What am I even thinking? I don't care if she killed Ryu. I'm going to rip her apart. After sitting down for a few more moments, she stood up. Stretching her arms, she spoke up. Kasumi Miwa, I'm coming for you. Sendai Kasumi Miwa. A teenage girl with blue hair donning the uniform of Kyoto High with a sword on her hip is a new player in the culling games. Ring. Pulling out her phone, she answers it with a smile. Useless Miwa here. An old voice speaks. Report. She nodded to no one. It's called the culling games. Points are given based on eliminations, and rules can be created by giving 100 points. It seems past sorcerers have incarnated to participate. Kasumi Miwa is a first-year student at Kyoto, but her work ethic earned her the position of secretary to the principal. Since much wasn't known about the culling games, she and Momo Nishimiya were ordered to scout and return. The Mun, or Gakuganji, speaks. We can eventually send more people there. Come back before you die. Miwa sweat drops. About that, I'm stuck in here unless I get 100 points to leave. Gakuganji could be heard narrowing his eyes. And how many do you have now? She looked defeated. 5. Gakuganji pondered for a moment. It looks like we'll have to speed up our actions. I'll send Aoi to bring you and Momo Nishimiya back. Miwa nodded again. Understood, I'll await him then. Gakuganji grunted in affirmation and hung up. Miwa giggled. Hee, I was originally upset that I was assigned this mission, but it turns out that Tokyo is here. Which means one thing. She clasps her hands together. Satoru Gojo and now Hiro Zenin are here. Would it be strange to ask for an autograph? Kaya. My fanfiction is almost done. I need to meet them to get their personalities just right. Kasumi Miwa was a massive fan of Satoru Gojo and now Hiro Zenin. Since they hold the title of the strongest of the modern era, they are both celebrities in the Jujutsu world. Unbeknownst to them, this has sparked some interesting stories about them that have been deeply hidden by the Gojo x Now Hero fan club. To the fan club, it is a classified secret that must not be revealed to the public. It is said that anyone who speaks about the club outside the club goes missing. She held her cheeks and smiled. A picture wouldn't be too forward, right? Kogain, show me the Sakurajima colony again. Yuji Itadori, picture 483 points. Uram, picture 13 points. Satoru Gojo, picture 0 points. Momo Nishimiya, picture 0 points. Her eyes narrowed slightly. I still don't know who Yuji Itadori is. He looks like a normal high school student. How does he have so many points? As she looked confused for a moment, Kogain updated the list. Now Hiro Zenin, 273 points. Miwa fell to her knees with a defeated look. Momo is so lucky. She is in the same colony as Satoru Gojo and now Hiro Zenin. A thought hits her as she pulls out her phone. She looked at her phone as she dialed the numbers. I'm going to ask her what they're like. Ring. The phone was instantly picked up. Miwa smiled. Hey, Momo screamed. Help me. This place is a war zone. I'm gonna die. Miwa's heart dropped. What is going on? Momo sounded horrified. There is this teenager named Yuji Itadori. He's insane. Miwa narrowed her eyes. What about Satoru Gojo? Momo gulped. Gojo and Yuji are fighting each other, and I can't even see what is happening. They are too fast. All I see are explosions. Boom. Explosions could be heard in the background. Miwa quickly spoke up. Tadu is coming to pick me up. He can teleport you out of there when he gets here. Just hold on for a little bit. A different woman's voice is heard on the phone. So, we have a little rat. Momo spoke. W8, wine scythe. Splat. Miwa spoke up. Momo. The line went silent, and the call forcefully ended. Miwa's face drained of color. I need to get out of here. She shook her head and jumped up, instantly feeling lightheaded and tripping over herself. Bam. Miwa face-planted back onto the ground. Phew. Suddenly, something flew over her. Boom. Miwa blinked as a strange beam passed. A voice spoke. So, you're Kasumi Miwa. She turned towards the assailant to see a floating woman with black scara. Miwa sweated. Oh. Sakurajima boom. Yuji Itadori, or rather Sukuna, goes flying through a building. After a moment, he sits up with marks on his face and a small blood trail going down his mouth that quickly heals. Pat. Pat. He removes the dust from his clothes and stands up. What an annoying technique to deal with. Uram told him about Satoru Gojo's technique, but Sukuna wanted to see if he could find a way for his slashes to reach him. Domain amplification doesn't allow him to use cleave on contact, and dismantle won't reach him. Then, there is the matter of close-quarters combat. While Sukuna is a master in hand-to-hand combat, he can't match Gojo's hand-to-hand combat without his forearms since Gojo is much more familiar with a two-handed fighting style. Gojo lands right in front of him with a wide smile. "You aren't bad. Most people would have been dead by now." Sukuna smirks. "Damn punk." Gojo looked slightly irritated. "That said, why are you holding back? Actually, let me rephrase it. It feels like you can do more than you are showing." It was only natural. Sukuna was stuck inside a cage rather than a vessel. However, Gojo had no way of knowing this. His Heian form is where his true strength lies. He has 2 more arms for hand signs and other techniques like hollow wicker basket. His arguably most important addition is his second mouth, which can constantly chant all his attacks to be 120% efficient. If Sukuna transforms into his Heian form too early, he might not be able to kill Gojo before he reverts back to Yuji. Now Hero Zenin will eventually join the fight, meaning he is on a timer. However, with the current situation, even Sukuna doesn't know if he can kill Gojo in his current state. In fact, he might lose. They stared each other down as they seemed to come to an understanding. Both smiled at each other. Gojo crossed his fingers, and Sukuna made a hand sign. They announced at the same time. Domain expansion, unlimited void. Domain expansion, malevolent shrine. Whoosh. 2 domains at the peak of sorcery overlap as they enter a domain clash. Pseudo-space and a massive shrine with a mouth in the middle appear with Sukuna standing atop the shrine and Gojo smiling on the ground. Sukuna's eyes widened as he realized that while it wasn't by much, he was slowly losing the domain clash. If Sukuna were in his true form, he could have kept up with it due to his second mouth's chanting, but he didn't have that luxury now. Regardless, his domain's range still reached outside Gojo's, allowing him to attack the outside barrier. Sukuna's smile widened as he attacked the outside of his barrier. Crack. Gojo laughed. "Well then, better switch it up." Before the domain shattered, its durability shifted with the inside. The Gojo of this timeline has long since learned how to mold and manipulate his barrier. Domain clashes are one of the most important techniques a sorcerer needs to learn at the highest level of sorcery. Luckily, Gojo had someone who could match him. While clashing with Naohiro, he learned about changing the properties of domains, breaking all previous knowledge about domain expansions. Surprisingly for Gojo, Naohiro was insistent that he learn about manipulating his domain's properties. Who knew it would be useful and that he would use it against one of the strongest people he'd ever fight. He agreed with Naohiro, but it was unlikely that he would ever have his barrier shattered by anyone other than him. The current issue for Sukuna is that if it continues for much longer, he will be paralyzed by unlimited void. So, Sukuna undertook a binding vow. One that would limit his usage of the divine flame to only be usable inside his domain for a 120% increase in his domain's proficiency. Due to the limitless, divine flame would be ineffective as a technique unless one were inside his domain simultaneously. The clash returns to normal as both domains fight for control. Gojo rushes towards Sukuna and throws a punch. To his surprise, Sukuna catches his fist. Gojo smiles. So, he can use domain amplification and domain expansion together. While their domains can clash evenly, it now becomes a battle for whoever can make the other drop their domain. Bam! Sukuna throws a hook at Gojo, instantly getting ducked as Gojo palm uppercuts him. Using the momentum, Gojo smiles as he delivers a kick to Sukuna's side. Grab. However, Sukuna catches it. Whoosh. Bam. Gojo spins out of his grip and attempts to kick him in the face, but his forearm blocks the kick. His strikes alone would be tough to handle, but when combined with blue, it becomes more disorienting as Sukuna gets pulled in them, increasing damage and making Sukuna unstable in his movements. Slowly, Gojo's domain takes more ground. Suddenly, instead of punching, Gojo points a finger, point blank, at Sukuna's face. Curse technique reversal, red. Boom. He flies into the shrine, but Gojo notices that Sukuna's body starts to smoke before hitting it. With that strike, Gojo expected the domain to break but narrowed his eyes when his domain stopped overtaking Sukuna's. He spoke from the debris. "I'm going to kill Kenjaku after this." This vessel is a pain in the ass. Gojo made a smart-ass remark. Are you sure it's the vessel? The smoke cleared to a four-armed, four-eyed, two-mouthed Mun. Ryaman Sukuna's true form. Outside of the domain clash, now hero, I couldn't help but smile as the slashes outside the domain's barrier did nothing to me due to my slash training over the years. It's possible to join in, but smashing Gojo's barrier and making his technique burn out would be bad against someone like Sukuna. Gojo might be stronger than his Shinjuku self, but that doesn't mean he can come out of the fight unscathed or even win. All I know is that, together, Gojo and I can beat the shit out of him. As soon as the domains drop, I'm going in. I'm going to get some payback for that time I was in his inner domain. Sakurajima Colony. As Sukuna transformed into his Heian self, Satoru Gojo's domain stopped taking over, returning the clash to a stalemate. Gojo smiled. I was starting to get bored of this. Not responding, Sukuna brought his bottom two hands together and made a hand sign as his bottom mouth started chanting. Gojo jumped at Sukuna with a maniacal smile. Suddenly, he widened his eyes in surprise when he felt something was wrong. He turned off his sure hit. Sukuna spoke. Hollow wicker basket. As one might have guessed, Sukuna took another binding vow. He could remedy the main problem with his ultimate technique by removing the sure hit of his domain expansion. Gojo was too fast for Sukuna to get his technique off, but with his new form, he has many options available to him. His bottom mouth spoke. Open. Crackle. Crackle. Sukuna wasn't finished, as flames appeared between his top arms. His top two arms pulled the fire backward until it was shaped like an arrow. As Gojo neared ever closer, Sukuna aimed his arrow towards the middle of the domain ground. Sukuna smiled. If I can't destroy his domain from the outside, I'll do it from the inside. Under normal circumstances, Gojo could flip the conditions of his domain to reinforce it on the inside. However, what awaits outside of the barrier are Sukuna's slashes after the arrow is fired, since the binding vow will end, and his domain sure hit can be enabled once more. The time between attacks doesn't allow Gojo to strengthen both sides before his domain can be shattered. Gojo arrived in front of him. Sukuna could do nothing since all four of his arms were occupied. Bam! Gojo punched Sukuna in the face as he pulled him in with blue. Grab. He grabbed Sukuna's second mouth's tongue and began to rip it out. Tear. Blood escaped both mouths as he took strikes to the face and had his tongue half ripped from his bottom mouth. Sukuna spoke. Divine Flame. Due to the restriction on his body, he needs to kill Gojo before Yuji takes over. Combined with the 6 eyes, the limitless technique allows the user to become nigh untouchable. This Divine Flame wasn't meant to hurt Gojo directly. There were conditions that needed to be met. Once Gojo's domain shatters, his technique will be burnt out, meaning there is a window where the Divine Flame can incinerate him. An all-or-nothing attack to end the fight, here and now. Phew. He releases the fire arrow. Boom. Whoosh. Everything becomes covered in hellfire. Shatter. Crash. Gojo's barrier shatters and Sukuna's shrine explodes as fire and smoke cover the entirety of Sukuna's 200-meter domain range. A sound could be heard in someone's head. Clink. After a short while, the smoke slowly clears. Sukuna is seen standing with burn marks all over his body, including an unrecognizable bottom left arm. He narrowed his eyes as he heard Gojo's voice from inside the smoke. All those binding vows and you still didn't kill me. It clears to a charred Gojo with his whole body covered in burns and torn clothes. You couldn't tell it was Gojo unless you saw his eyes. Both rapidly heal using the reverse curse technique. Sukuna frowns while Gojo smiles. And now it looks like your time is up. Gojo didn't know about the difficulties with Sukuna's vessel, so instead of referring to his vessel's timer, he referred to the other person standing in the smoke. The smoke revealed a Mun with surface-level burns. Been a while, fraud. Before appearing in the smoke, now hero Zenin took more damage than he showed. Compared to his current injuries, his previous ones were much worse. Since now hero was outside the domain clash, he could escape the range of the Divine Flame. However, he wanted to take as much damage from them as possible. He wanted to be introduced to them. He wanted to interact with them. He wanted to adapt to them. Now, he was immune to fire. As soon as he got the last adaptation notification, he became the ultimate Sukuna counterweapon ever to exist. Now Hiro cracked his neck. We still got a few minutes until Sukuna switches back with his vessel, so let's do something for old time's sake. Bam. Gojo spoke as he punched his hand. You call it a jump, right? Sukuna yelled as he brought his arms together. You damn punks. As if it were a bell, everyone made a hand sign. Everyone spoke. Domain expansion, unlimited void. Domain expansion, cycle of samsara. Domain expansion, malevolent shrine. A 3-person domain expansion. With most domains that are either incomplete or not refined to the highest level, 3 or even 4 domains can be active at once. The difference in the current situation is that a 3-person domain clashes with domains at the highest peak of Jujutsu, fighting for control and unable to stabilize. Shatter. Shatter. Crash. All the domains broke. BTZ. BAM. Now Hiro appeared in front of Sukuna and punched him across the face. Black flash. Shortly after domains break, techniques are burnt out, forcing the user to have low output until their technique returns. Now Hiro doesn't have this issue. Sukuna immediately swipes 2 of his arms as his other 2 block a punch. Dismantle. BTZ. BAM. Now Hiro smiles, punches him in the stomach, crushing his bottom hands, and ignores the dismantle entirely. Black flash. Soul rupture. Blood escapes Sukuna's mouth. Gojo smiles as he appears behind Sukuna. Nothing personal, old man. Curse technique maximum output lapse. Blue, BAM. Sukuna coughs up more blood as he gets punched in the side. His top arms form into a sign as his bottom mouth speaks. Domain EXP-crack. Rip. Splat. The tongue gets ripped out by Gojo, and now Hiro smashes his arms. Suddenly, Gojo crosses his fingers as his nose starts bleeding a little. Domain expansion, unlimited void. Grabbing now Hiro's shoulder, a void of information is sent through Sukuna's mind as he becomes frozen in place. Now Hiro spoke. Don't destroy your brain, dumbass. He smirked and pointed at the frozen Sukuna. But isn't it funny to see Sukuna like this? Sukuna is frozen with an open mouth and wide eyes, bleeding from his bottom mouth and having injuries all over his body. Now Hiro nods and speaks. I've always wanted to make you look like a clown, Sukuna. Gojo raised an eyebrow. Going on your own anime monologue? Now Hiro sends him a side glance. Let me do my thing. He turned back to Sukuna, whose only sign of life was the small twitches his body gave while unable to move. Now Hiro smiled from ear to ear. I'll never forget you as long as I live, Ryaman Sukuna. He continued. Stand proud. You are strong. Gojo spoke. He does, he's Sukuna. Now Hiro smiled. You wouldn't get it. Gojo just shook his head. Whatever, let's get this over with. They both walked over to Sukuna. Now Hiro pulled back his fist and gave Sukuna a closed-eye smile. See ya, Fraud Kuna. Maximum output, black soul rupture. Boom. Shatter. Gojo uncrossed his fingers as the four-armed Sukuna reverted back to an unconscious 14-year-old teenager. Now Hiro sighed and spoke. Alright, now it's time to deal with Kenjaku. Kogain, make a rule that shows the location of the Game Master. Kogain spoke. The Game Master has denied the rule addition. Now Hiro narrowed his eyes. Let's not do this again. I don't care. Make it a rule. Kogain nodded while sweating. Players can no dash, boom. Kogain exploded. Gojo yelled and stomped. Can that bum stop hiding? Now Hiro rubbed the back of his head. Alright, I'll take Yuji to Choso to fulfill my end of the binding vow. I smashed Sukuna's soul, so he won't be able to do anything even if he is still there. All it will do to Yuji is make him stronger. Gojo sighed. Let's meet up with the others. He's got to be here somewhere. Now Hiro stretched. Yeah, we can also clean up some of the other players on the way. A thought hit Gojo. Speaking of other players, wasn't Sukuna's bitch in here too? Gojo looked around and smirked when he picked up Uram with his 6 eyes. Now Hiro had a wide smile. I'll give Choso 2 gifts then. Meanwhile in Sendai, Miwa spoke while on the ground. Wait a second. Can we talk about this? Looking back up at the person who attacked her, she widened her eyes. Where did she go? A voice whispered in her ear from behind. You didn't kill Ryu, did you? Slash. Quickly drawing her sword, Miwa slashed behind her. Simple domain. The anti-domain technique can be applied in many ways to provide people with a reliable way of dealing with damage. After being appointed as a secretary to the principal, Gakuganji ordered Atsuya Kusakabe to train her in his signature fighting style. However, against someone like Takako Yuro, whoosh, her sword was deformed. Bam. Miwa gets sent flying as she gets punched in the face. After rolling for a few meters, Yuro spoke. Disappointing, and I was scared of this trash? What a waste of time. Miwa didn't stand up, as she could barely move after a single strike from the incarnated sorcerer. Takako Yuro is an incarnated sorcerer from the Heian era, one of the few people who could go blow for blow with the special grades of the modern era. Miwa didn't stand a chance as a grade 3 sorcerer. Looking down at Miwa, blood flows from her nose, and one could tell that her facial bones were broken where she was hit. Yuro shook her head. Whatever, 5 points is 5 points. She brings her arms together and points at the downed Miwa. The sky deforms slightly as she shatters the air like ice. Thin icebreaker. Phew. Clap. Boom. Yuro spoke. Kogain, is Maki Zenin still in Sendai? Kogain nods with a smile. Sure is. However, she knew something was wrong since Kogain didn't give her points. Her eyes widened when she saw that the helpless girl who should have died was nowhere to be found. Yuro narrows her eyes and turns towards a faraway building. Elsewhere 3 people stand on top of a building. A brown robot spoke up. Is she gonna be alright? Another woman with black hair rolled her eyes while outputting a reverse curse technique. Quiet, I need to concentrate. The last person stands on the edge, narrowing his eyes at the assailant. Takata-chan is live in 30 minutes. We'll need to wrap this up quickly. Kokichi Muta, or Mekamaru, spoke. Can you take this thing seriously? We lost contact with Momo. Originally, To-Do was supposed to go alone. However, after losing contact with Momo Nishimiya, the 2 strongest students, Maizenin and Aoi To-Do, were sent to deal with it. For obvious reasons, Kokichi insisted that he join, even though he was only a grade 2 sorcerer. Unfortunately, they were slightly late, making Miwa suffer damage that could have been avoided. Mai reached back into a small bag she was carrying and pulled out a finger that radiated an immense amount of cursed energy. She spoke. I didn't want to use one of these for this, but desperate times. Deconstruct. The reversal of construction allows Maizenin to deconstruct objects. However, her main use of the deconstruction technique is to gain the cursed energy. Every item deconstructed allows her to extract the cursed energy within. Construction and reverse curse technique cost an insane amount of cursed energy, making them inefficient, so she needed a surefire way to replenish her reserves. This leads to her solution. Now Hero Zenin. Since he has a near-endless amount of cursed energy, deconstructing even a fraction of a part of his body refills her entire tank and more. So, he had parts of his body turned into pseudo-cursed objects for her to use if she ran low on cursed energy. It's definitely weird but effective in results. Mai stood up. She'll be fine, her bones are fixed, but she is in no condition to fight. One of the benefits of Shoko living at the Zenin compound is having access to her abilities. Mai was getting further and further behind Maki, so she moved to the reverse curse technique, which led her to where she is today. A grade 1 sorcerer. Mai wiped the sweat from her forehead. Mekamaru, stay here and protect Miwa. We've got to handle the naked lady flying towards us. He spoke. Mai narrowed her eyes. We might need you to come here in person. In the other timeline, Kokichi needed Mahito to heal his sickly body, but there was someone else he could go to. The current Mekamaru was using a proxy since his ultimate form mode, Albatross, only has a certain amount of battery. He nodded as his body froze as if activating something. It'll be ready. Give me a signal, and I'll come here. Kokichi tossed a mini Mekamaru that Mai caught. A distant voice could be heard. Thin icebreaker. Phew. My smiled. Shield. Boom. Crack. Cracks showed on the massive black shield, but it held firm. While she could construct things without speaking, she gets around some of the cursed energy costs by revealing her creations. Yuro spoke as she narrowed her eyes. How annoying. Why can't you all die? The frontman spoke while hitting his chest with a fist. I can't die yet. Takata-chan is counting on me. Yuro raised an eyebrow. What? He smirked and pointed at her. I've got to be somewhere, so I'll make this quick. My face palmed. Veins appeared on Yuro's face. Quick? Shut it, prick. Whoosh. She appeared in front of To-Do and threw a punch. Clap. They switched places. Yuro's eyes widened as she turned around to see a fist. Wadash. Bam. She gets punched in the face. Drip. Drip. Her nose starts to bleed. Not wasting any time, To-Do grabs a piece of rubble beneath him and throws it while imbuing it with cursed energy. Clap. He switches Yuro with the rock, teleporting her away from the group. Clap. Clap. The same is done with 2 more rocks, which Mai and To-Do teleport to get away from Miwa and Mekamaru. To-Do speaks and removes his jacket. Although you're boring, I'll work with you this one time. Mai rolled her eyes. Gee, thanks. Yuro, who is a few feet away from them, has an irritated smile on her face. I'm gonna enjoy this. To-Do shakes his head. I'm not. You aren't my type. She grabs the sky. Are you insane? Drip. To-Do starts crying. You're boring, just like everyone else. Liquid metal covers Mai's body as she deconstructs another portion of Naohiro's finger. He's just like that. Everyone knew the time for talking was over. Yuro drags the sky with a wild smile and jumps toward To-Do. Die, asshole. Clap. They switch places, but Yuro grabs the sky under her this time. To-Do throws a punch, but his arm becomes smooth and morphs. Yuro throws an elbow, however, she has someone else to worry about. Shink. Mai speaks as liquid metal spikes appear below Yuro. Spikes. She stops her strike, floats above them, and points at Mai. Annoying. Thin icebreaker. Phew. Clap. Yuro switches places with Mai. Boom. Blood drips off of her body as she is hit by her own blast. Mai speaks. A spear. She has no time to rest as she looks up to see a metal spear a few inches from her face. Slice. Yuro moves her head out of the way as the spear cuts her cheek. She narrowed her eyes and thought to herself. So the guy can switch places with things that have cursed energy, and she can mold things using metal. While Yuro is strong, she matches up poorly with a disorienting technique like Boogie Woogie, when paired with an offensive technique. She smiled. If I can't hit either of you, I'll make it so I can. Mai and To-Do widen their eyes. To-Do moves to clap as Mai creates a metal block and puts it above Yuro. Yuro crosses her arms. Domain expansion, Skydome Sanctum. A black barrier encases everyone present. Mai speaks. Falling Blossom Emotion. Mekamaru. Clap. However, To-Do doesn't switch. Immediately, To-Do moves into a stance for Simple Domain. However, he becomes unable to move as he floats. Yuro smiles as Mai starts to float as well. Inside Yuro's domain expansion, Skydome Sanctum, the sky can be molded and shifted however she wants, meaning she can control the movements of everything inside. Falling Blossom Emotion is only effective against certain domains. This isn't one of them. Yuro speaks. You both were a pain in the ass, so I'm going to take my time. Crack. As she walks over to the both of them, she hears a crack in her barrier. Shatter. A loud voice is heard. Rah. She spins around to see a massive fist smashing through the domain. Yuro moves to grab the sky, but her technique fizzles out. Clap. Clap. To-Do teleports Mayan himself now that they are out of the domain using the rocks he imbued with cursed energy earlier. Boom. The massive fist smashes Yuro into the ground. Boom. 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 Ultimate Mekamaru keeps punching the ground where Yuro once stood. My blinks on top of a building as she speaks to Tadu. Remind me to apologize to Kokichi. Tadu crosses his arms. His taste is still boring, though. After a few more punches, Kogain speaks. You have gained 10 points. Whoosh. The head of Ultimate Mechamaru mode, Absolute, opens up to reveal a healthy Kokichi Muta with a smile. My spoke. A little overkill. He shrugged. She nearly killed Miwa. As if lightning struck, Tadu gasped. No, I need to get out of here. There are only 5 minutes left. Mai scratched her cheek. Well, you need 100 points to leave. He looked at Mai in horror. Why didn't anyone tell me? Mai rolled her eyes. Kogain did, you didn't listen. Drip. Tadu fell on his knees and looked at the sky but said nothing as tears streamed down his face. He had the face of a heartbroken mun. Tokyo Colony Number 2. Crash. Kashimo's frame gets smashed and goes flying into a shipping container. Boom. He thinks to himself while lying on the metal sheets. Movements. There are a set number of movements that I can follow before turning into glass. The problem is... Kashimo jumps up as Naoya appears in front of him. Shink. Kashimo turns into a frame. He's too damn fast. Crash. Even when Hajime Kashimo amplified his speed, Naoya Zenin hadn't been using projection sorcery to amplify his speed in their first encounter, only using it to turn Kashimo into a frame. Kashimo can't match Naoya in raw speed without using his curse technique, which can only be used once. However, he would rather die than use it against anyone other than Sukuna. Unfortunately for Kashimo and Naoya, Kogain hasn't been able to announce the addition of a new rule due to their fight. Kashimo can leave and go to Yuji Itadori whenever he wants, but he still believes he needs to create a rule, making this battle the determining factor in whether he can face Sukuna. He smirks while lying on the ground. That's enough. You might be fast. Naoya appears above him and does an axe kick. But not faster than lightning. BTZ crack. Lightning gets shot off. Splat. Naoya widens his eyes as he narrowly leans his head back, avoiding the strike through his head. However, drip. Drip. Kashimo stood up with a smile. Bam. Naoya goes flying into a wall as Kashimo punches him in the side. Boom. Kashimo speaks. Take out the legs, you can shut down speed altogether. Naoya's right leg, which was moving down towards Kashimo, was blown off by the lightning bolt. Kashimo smiles as he picks up his Naoya staff. Your whole thing is speed. You fight by overwhelming your opponent with strikes while they can't react. But what happens if you fight someone or something faster than you? Naoya spoke from the dust cloud. You like talking to yourself, don't you? Kashimo widened his eyes when Naoya appeared without a missing leg. The torn pant leg was the only indication that something was wrong. A wide smile appeared on Kashimo's face. Reverse curse technique, huh? Naoya stretched his arms. Nah, never been good at it. I needed a little something extra to get into special grade. While Naoya can utilize basic forms of reverse curse technique, it isn't effective enough to regenerate a limb in a matter of seconds. So, he used his reversal technique, backtrack. Projection sorcery allows the user to plan and move in 24 frames. However, the reversal uses 24 frames to revert the user back to the original time. This can only be used after an instance of projection sorcery is used. Since Naoya used projection sorcery in his axe kick against Kashimo, his body reversed from that time after being struck by the lightning bolt. This means any serious damage he takes can be nullified if he uses projection sorcery while his body is still in full health. However, the point in time is removed with every new instance of projection sorcery, so if it's not used effectively, it can be pointless. Naoya continued. However, if you keep holding back your curse technique, you'll die. Kashimo vanished and appeared in front of Naoya. Bam. Naoya crossed his arms as Kashimo threw a punch at his guard. I don't need to use it against a nobody like you. Kick. Naoya sends a sidekick at Kashimo's stomach, which he grabs. However, his goal wasn't to damage Kashimo. Naoya smiles and brings his hands together. You were the strongest in an era of the weak. Domain expansion, Time Cell Moon Palace. A black barrier encases both of them. Kashimo speaks. Hollow wicker basket. Anti-domain techniques of the past were ineffective and unrefined. While the sure hits and most dangers of a domain can be avoided, hollow wicker basket requires the user to hold their hands together to keep it active. The technique is more durable than simple domain. However, anyone not named Sukuna is better off learning the latter due to the harsh restrictions that a user has when performing the hollow wicker basket technique. Naoya smiles as a fleshy womb with an eye forms behind him. Bam! Kashimo gets sent flying towards the barrier wall as he gets punched in the face. Even if the sure hit is blocked, the user of hollow wicker basket has to deal with a domain-amplified sorcerer without using two hands. Naoya specifically can keep up with Naohiro and Gojo in speed while in his domain. Bam! 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 Kashimo gets tossed around by Naoya and holds his hands together to avoid being affected by the domain's sure hit. He screams as electricity builds up in his body. You damn nobody. BTZ BTZ boom. Kashimo flashes white as he detonates his cursed energy, shooting electricity everywhere inside the domain expansion and covering Naoya. Due to his curse technique, Kashimo hasn't been able to attain a domain expansion of his own. So, he created his own form of a sure hit attack using his cursed energy trait. Crack. Shatter. The domain falls apart as Kashimo is on his hands and knees, blood all over his face and body, and clothes torn. Huff. Huff. Finally, that nobody is due dash dot. A voice spoke up from a few meters away. You're insane. Kashimo turned to see a half-charred Naoya lying on his back, hardly moving due to the electricity running through his body. BTZ, Naoya slowly stood up and moved his body around to remove the residual electricity from his body while his burn slowly healed using the reverse curse technique. He spoke. Well, whatever, I still need to create that rule. Kogain instantly screamed. There is already a rule in place that allows other players to travel to different colonies. Kashimo widened his eyes and scowled at Kogain. Why didn't you tell me? He huffed. You were ignoring me. It's not my fault you guys wouldn't listen. Naoya fell on his back. Well, I no longer need to worry about that. I could use a bit to get my cursed energy back. Hey, Kashimo, what is your whole thing with Sukuna? Kashimo narrowed his eyes. What are we, buddies or something? Naoya flopped his head back. Nah, but both of us are nearly out of cursed energy, and the rule is already created. Kashimo moved his body to a sitting position, facing Naoya. Fine. I was the strongest of the Edo period and had nothing left to attain, so I took Kinjaku's offer to fight the strongest sorcerer in history. That's why I want to fight him. Naoya tilted his head to the side. Strongest in history? More like the strongest of the Heian era. That got Kashimo's attention. What do you mean? Naoya looked Kashimo in the eyes. Exactly what I mean, that title was taken. While they are close, Naohiro Zenin and Satoru Gojo are likely stronger than Sukuna. Kashimo raised an eyebrow. Your brother, Naohiro Zenin. How would you know? Naoya smirked. Because my brother told me. Kashimo gave him a deadpan stare, but Naoya smiled. Based on the current standings in the culling games, it looks like Sukuna lost, given that his points are gone. A screen appeared in front of Kashimo, which made his eyes widen. Naohiro Zenin, no way. Naoya huffed a laugh. I'm surprised he didn't win faster. Kashimo narrowed his eyes at Naoya. Why do you even give a shit? We just tried to kill each other. Naoya looked at the sky. This culling game thing sucks. Maybe you'll find what you're looking for when fighting Naohiro. Kashimo looked at the ground. Maybe, maybe not. However, Naoya didn't care about that shit. Naoya thought to himself with a malicious smile. Payback's a bitch, Naohiro. Tokyo Colony Number 1. Inside the theater lie a mun inside a bathtub and a half-curse, staring each other down. The half-curse pointed his arms towards the bathtub. Piercing blood. You. Narrowly, the mun got out of the way before being stabbed with a beam of blood. Crash. The bathtub was destroyed. Higuruma, who was previously in the bathtub, spoke. So, I see you are like the others, unwilling to have a civil conversation. Choso spoke. I need your points to get to my brother. Higuruma narrowed his eyes. Very well then. I don't plan on giving them to anyone. Choso brought his hands together. Convergence. Higuruma grabbed a gavel that seemed to come out of thin air, which multiplied its size. Lines showed themselves on Choso's face. Slicing exorcism. Slicing exorcism, the ability to sharpen blood, is an attack that can be more effective than piercing blood, given the circumstances. Usually, convergence is used for supernova or piercing blood. However, since Higuruma has proven the ability to avoid them, Choso decided to condense his blood to make his slicing exorcism faster and stronger. Flowing red scale, convergence, and slicing exorcism allow for a devastating attack. Choso wanted to kill him now, not to waste any more time. He spoke. Die. Phew. As the blood cut through the air, Higuruma's eyes widened as he raised the gavel. Domain expansion, deadly sentencing. A black barrier forms around the both of them, instantly becoming a courtroom. The blood stopped inches in front of his face. Suddenly, a massive shikigami appeared behind Higuruma. Choso's eyes widened. My attack. It was stopped. No need to think about it. Convergence. However, he couldn't compress his blood. Choso dropped his arms and looked at his hands before Higuruma spoke. Violence isn't permitted in my domain. He scowled. What does that mean for us, then? Higuruma spoke. My domain's rules must be followed by all that are within. Judgment, please begin. Choso isn't like Yuji. To Higuruma, Choso was just another culling game player, the same as the 19 who came before him. He couldn't care less about his life story or morality. The judgment spoke. The defendant, Choso, is charged with a serial murder of 12 individuals at a local coffee shop in 2007. Higuruma spoke. You have 3 options: silence, confession, and denial. False statements are all. Choso spoke in a somber tone and looked Higuruma dead in the eyes. I did it. My brother's lives were on the line. I'd kill 100 more if it meant I could keep them safe. The judgment's eyes slowly opened as it glared at Choso. Guilty. Confiscation and the death penalty. Suddenly, the domain disappeared as a bright yellow sword appeared in Higuruma's hand. Depending on the accused crime, the judgment can give punishments based on the severity. The death penalty allows Higuruma to wield the executioner's sword, which can kill anything that gets cut or pierced, and confiscation allows Higuruma to confiscate a primary part of the accused arsenal, such as a cursed tool, technique, or energy. Choso was ready to fight but noticed something was wrong. I can't use my technique. As Higuruma was about to move, Kogen spoke. Attention, a new rule has allowed players to travel to different colonies if they reach their respective colonies' barriers. Choso and Higuruma narrowed their eyes at each other. Until Choso turned around and started running. I'm coming for you, Yuji. Higuruma blinked and had a shocked look on his face, but he still pursued him nonetheless. The judgment delivered a death verdict, so he must carry out the sentence. Choso is aware of Sukuna's presence inside Yuji Itadori. However, he wants to avoid wasting time and not helping when he can. Even with his technique confiscated, Choso didn't care. All he wanted was to ensure Yuji's safety. Now hero ugh, why am I the one delivering the luggage? Even though they are pretty weightless, flying around carrying 2 people is annoying. Flashback Gojo spoke with a smile. I'll check on the others while you drop off those 2. I instantly reply. Clap. He vanished. Flashback and I guess it's the result of making binding vows. I'm not regretting it since having Choso as an ally is a great addition to our forces rather than having him become a problem for others. Is that Hikari? Looking down, I see a shirtless man with blonde hair standing on top of 2 others. It looks like Hikari dealt with Hazanoki and Reggie. With Jackpot, they didn't stand a chance. Anywho, where is Choso? I've tracked him, so it won't be that hard to locate him. My eyes widened as I sensed where he was. Why is he running? I started floating towards him. After making my way towards his location, I hear a distant sound. Yuji. Yep, sounds like Choso. I guess he found out about the rule edition, which allows players to change colonies. Well, it's time to fulfill my end of the deal so I can get back to searching for Kenjaku. However, I notice someone else. Higuruma Hiromi running after him. Not just that, he has the executioner's blade with him. Of course, Choso would get the death penalty due to his actions in the past. I can't have Choso dying just yet. Usually, I would be worried about the executioner's blade, but it only works for the accused due to his techniques and functionality of delivering the proper penalty. I'm positive that the judgment wouldn't allow him to carry around the blade to execute others since they hadn't been tried for their crimes. Floating down to the ground, I appear in front of Choso with Uram and Yuji in my arms. I smile. Hey, Choso. Got 2 gifts for you. He stops in his tracks but only looks at Yuji. Choso could care less about Uram at the moment. His eyes started to water as he slowly walked over to Yuji. Grab. I let go of Yuji as Choso hugged him. He silently cried as he finally got to see the faceless brother that he had been searching for. Choso spoke. I'm so sorry I couldn't be there for you, Yuji. I failed you as an older brother. His hold on Yuji tightened, and he stayed still, hugging his long-lost brother. Higuruma arrived and ran towards Choso. Bam. I punched him, but not hard enough to kill him. Give the Mun some space. His executioner's blade disappeared as he went unconscious, returning Choso's curse technique. Yuji's eyes slowly opened. Choso looked into his eyes as Yuji stared back. Yuji spoke. Kill me. 8 years ago, Yuji Itadori. Opening my eyes, I wake up to see a dark gray ceiling. To my left, I see a small window at the top of the wall. Where am I? A basement? Turning to my right, my eyes widened as I saw bars covering the entire side, similar to a cage. Then, I noticed that I was on a thin bed without a pillow instead of lying on the hard floor. What kind of place is this? While sitting up, I try to process my thoughts to understand how I ended up in this place. I ponder for a moment. What happened before this? My memories hit me. Tears start streaming down my face when I realize what happened before now. I started to breathe rapidly, and my eyes widened. Grandpa. No, that couldn't have happened. We were eating dinner, and then, a woman with white hair. Blood. Ice. Grandpa. Step. I hear footsteps slowly coming closer. My heart races as I start to panic. I need to get out of here. But how? I'm unable to get through the metal, and the window is too tall. There has to be something. Step. The woman who killed Grandpa walks around the corner and just stares. I didn't know how much time passed, but it felt like an eternity. She sighs. The vessel is loud. I speak, albeit barely. Why am I here, and why did you kill Grandpa? However, she ignores me, instead walking towards a metal table with a bunch of random disgusting objects. She puts a finger on her chin and talks to herself. He'll need to be ready early so we can speed up the culling games, so upping his tolerance and unlocking cursed energy comes first. This one will work. The lady picks up a strange, dry black thing that looks like a large raisin and starts walking towards the cage. Instinctively, I scoot backward but find my back against a wall. Creak. She opens the door, but I don't even think about running since she could kill me anytime she wants. Step. She stops a foot away from me. Tears start welling as she reaches down. Grab. She grabs my hair to lift my face. I look her in the eyes with a horrified expression. Why? She still ignores me. Raising the object in front of me, she speaks. Time to begin. She shoves the object into my mouth and keeps pushing until I swallow it. It tastes horrible. Cough. The lady steps back, and I can breathe again. As I look confused, I feel something. Batum. I feel my heartbeat. Tears pour down my face. It hurts. It hurts. It hurts. My entire body feels. Bleh. I throw up, but the object doesn't come out. The lady speaks. How unsightly. To think you are going to be his vessel. Looking up, she stares down at me with a disgusted look on her face. The next second, her disgust turned into a smile. This will take a while. Mom. Anyone. Help me. Present. Tokyo #1 colony, kill me. Choso froze as a dead-eyed Yuji stared at him with no emotion. In this timeline, Yuji never had a speech from his grandpa. After being trapped, forced to be a vessel, and committing genocide on an entire colony, Yuji had no will to live. He became everything Uram, Kenjaku, and Sukuna wanted. A tool. A thing. A vessel. Uram ensured that his only purpose in life was to become a vessel for Ryam and Sukuna. As Yuji spoke those words, Naohiro and Choso went silent. No one, not even Naohiro, was expecting the former protagonist to lose his will to live. Choso looked heartbroken. Yuji. Yuji's face was dead. I don't care anymore. That caused Choso's hold on Yuji to tighten. Naohiro walked over to Uram. Grab. He spoke as he grabbed her hair and pulled her up. What did you do to him? Uram, with a bloodied face, looked into his eyes. She attempted to spit in his face, but he moved out of the way. Bam. He slammed her face against the concrete. Naohiro stood up. Choso, do whatever you like. She doesn't look like talking, so I'm going to meet up with everyone. Choso kept silent as he glanced toward Uram, Yuji unmoving but awake. Kogen spoke. However, it wasn't his normal voice. You've grown up so well, Yuji. A sliver of life appeared in his eyes. Mom. The voice continued. Don't worry, my child, you are almost done. Naohiro narrowed his eyes. Are you done hiding, Kenjaku? The Kogen, controlled by Kenjaku, spoke. You want to know something, Naohiro? I am done. I've performed countless experiments, found the being that defies the world's rules, and created the ultimate sorcerer battle royale. The strongest sorcerers all throughout history have died, and now, I'm going to finish everything. Whoosh. Gojo appeared out of nowhere, holding Hikari and Maki. Boof. He dropped them on the floor. Gojo started stretching, ignoring the two's complaints. Is it the final boss time? Maki and Hikari sweat-dropped and thought to themselves. He just fought Sukuna. Naohiro raised an eyebrow. Yeah, just gotta let the man finish his anime antagonist monologue. The dude likes to yap. Step. Gojo and Naohiro both noticed that someone entered the barrier to the Tokyo #1 colony. Naohiro spoke up before Gojo teleported. Wait, if he dies, the merger is going to start. Gojo pondered for a moment. That Tingen thing you talked about? Naohiro crossed his arms. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but it will be a problem. Hey, your brain all right? Gojo smiled as he cracked his neck. Yeah, I'd rather not do it, but had I not refreshed my technique in time, that fire arrow could have been even worse. Naohiro groaned as he noticed something. Ugh. I thought it was Kenjaku who entered the barrier. Not this dude. BTZ, lightning comes out of nowhere. Boom. It strikes Naohiro. The smoke clears to see a thin trail of blood coming down the side of his head. Clink. Naohiro smiled. So, you must be the farmer. A mun with a staff appears with a wide smile. So, you must be Naohiro Zenin. Instead of entertaining the idea of a fight, Naohiro turned to Maki. He gave her a closed-eye smile. Maki. Sword. Without missing a beat, she threw her split-soul katana toward Naohiro. Grab. Gojo yawned as Naohiro pointed it at Kashimo. BTZ. Kashimo screamed as he got covered in electricity. Mythical beast amber. He jumped toward Naohiro. Slice. Kashimo spoke. He got cut in half. Kogen spoke. You've earned 75 points. Now that all the incarnated sorcerers awakened for the culling games are dead, the merger will commence. Everyone's eyes widened as it wasn't started on the death of Kenjaku. He knew that Kashimo would get himself killed. He knew that the culling game incarnated sorcerers were going to get killed. He knew that Sukuna would lose. Now, the merger was going to start because Kashimo couldn't stay in the fields. Suddenly, the sky turned dark, or rather, a barrier was formed. Poof. Choso was surprised as Yuji teleported out of his arms. Hikari was the first one to speak up. I'll get ready then. Domain expansion, idle death gamble. Now Hiro mumbled. And they call me the domain merchant. Contrary to expectations, Hikari's domain fizzled out as soon as it was formed. It was then that everyone realized that they weren't in a normal barrier. It was a domain expansion. Tokyo No. 1 Colony Now Hiro instantly spoke up. Everyone, get close to me. Simple domain. A blue circle appeared, covering Maki, Choso, Hikari, and the unconscious Higuruma as Now Hiro shifted his stance. Falling Blossom emotion is inefficient as a domain counter, maybe even more so than Hollow Wicker Basket, depending on the type of domain. Instead of creating a full domain, a simple domain will suffice to best fit the situation. It also has the benefit of allowing multiple people inside of the domain. Aside from Now Hiro and Gojo, everyone present has no way to counter a domain. Maki had no cursed energy. There are one of two things that could happen to her. Either she is immune to the sure hit due to the properties of a heavenly restriction, or she cannot guard against the sure hit. If the domain targets everything within, the sure hit can affect her. Hikari was useless if he couldn't form a domain. Choso doesn't have any counter, and Higuruma's domain isn't strong enough to clash with the current barrier. Instead of forming his own simple domain, Gojo smiled. He crossed his fingers while still having his blindfold off. Let's see how refined this thing is. Domain expansion, unlimited void, whoosh. A black barrier forms. Gojo caught everyone within the domain, but now Hiro protected them. The domain holds firm until sizzle. It appears to melt from the top down. Gojo raised an eyebrow. Huh? Not gonna lie, it's kinda cool. His domain didn't lose in a clash or get destroyed from the outside. It was slowly dismantled. Only one person in the world could dismantle a domain as strong as Gojo's. Tengen. If she's the only one who could perform such a feat, it means that it is Tengen's domain expansion. Now Hiro widened his eyes. Wasn't her technique immortality? Then how does her sure hit work? Everyone looked at Now Hiro while he had his realization moment. He spoke. Barriers. While Tengen's technique is immortality, her domain essentially extends her reach to everything trapped within and allows her to use barriers as a medium for her sure hit. Now Hiro spoke up. The old lady's sure hit allows her to use her barrier manipulation on everything within. Since your domain didn't expand further than hers, she was able to dismantle it from the outside. Meaning. Gojo smirked. Anyone and anything caught in her domain is in the palm of her hand. Choso stared at nothing. Which explains how Yuji was teleported. Maki crossed her arms. How is the simple domain still intact, then? Clink. Now Hiro smirked. I adapted. Gojo casually walked into the simple domain as if his domain wasn't dismantled in front of him. Hikari sat down. So what? Are we just going to sit here until something happens? Now Hiro shook his head. Knowing Kenjaku, he's going to make his appearance. Now Hiro POV. This isn't how I wanted things to turn out, but you can't stop what's already started. Although I'm fine within her domain, I can't say the same for everyone else. If I drop the simple domain, everyone can be affected by the sure hit. Using a domain expansion isn't cost-effective, even if I have already adapted to her domain, since it would be a waste of cursed energy. I can't fight while others are sitting in the hands of one of the strongest barrier users. Too long, didn't read, we're in deep shit. Step. Everyone narrowed their eyes as a white-haired, 5-foot-tall girl appeared out of thin air. However, it wasn't Tengen. There were stitches. Everyone noticed that she was carrying Yuji by the back of his shirt. Tengen had a wide smile. Like what I've done with the place. I smiled back. February 10th. She huffed a laugh. It turns out that when you use techniques to their fullest potential, they can be much stronger than ever thought before. I can't help but think back to Sukuna and Yorozu. However, Megumi is different now. I'll have to deal with this before everything truly changes. It's the final showdown. I smirked as I thought back to what Megumi's counterpart had accomplished. Opening a hole in a domain expansion. Kenjaku cannot beat Gojo in a domain clash but can only dismantle it from the outside, so he should be able to open a hole in the barrier using his own domain before Kenjaku can dismantle it. I whispered to Gojo. Take the others and open a hole in the domain. You should be able to teleport to get them out. Instead of making a usual smartass remark, he nodded and grabbed Hikari and Maki. In normal circumstances, he would have to choose between fighting Kenjaku or saving his students, but now that I'm here, he can choose the latter. Unfortunately, he can only save 2 people at a time, but he doesn't care much for Choso, and Higuruma is some random culling games player as far as he is concerned. Kenjaku continued. Thank you, Naohiro. I yelled. Now. Undoing the simple domain, Gojo moves to clap his hands to teleport. Clap. Crack. Shatter. However, the domain barrier shattered. Ignoring all thoughts, I jump at Kenjaku. Grab. Spurt. I instantly appear before him and run my right hand through his head as I grab his throat with my left. Shit, he moved his brain to avoid my strike. He keeps his smile as blood runs down his face. Should have gone for the boy. Merge. Splat. I crush his brain with my hand. Tengen's body gets sucked into Yuji's as I move my hand out of the head. Moving my hand out, I shove it toward the boy. Sorry, Yuji. Splat. Clink. Huh? I looked down to see an arm through my chest. My eyes widened. My soul. Rip. Yuji pulls his arm out of my chest. Bam. I instantly send my fist toward his face as my chest heals with the reverse curse technique. Boom. He gets sent flying into a building. Something was taken from me, but more importantly, how did he injure me? What the hell was that? When I hit him, it felt like that time when I was figuring out how Tengen's barriers worked. Like he was constantly shifting his body's properties. My eyes widen. He can bypass my adaptations using Tengen's barrier manipulation properties. And this presence. Clap. Gojo teleports a few feet from me. So, kill him yet? I sighed. Nope, we still have a final boss. Gojo's eyes narrowed. It looks like he noticed it, too. After thinking for a bit, I realized that he was able to get a small piece of my soul before his hand left my chest. I healed it back quickly, but that wasn't the issue. The issue is what he ended up taking. I spoke. You've got to be shitting me. A voice spoke. Domain expansion, Malevolent Shrine. Tokyo Colony Number 1. Domain expansion, Malevolent Shrine. Whoosh. Contrary to many expectations, a black barrier is formed around 3 people. Unfortunately, Gojo's domain is still returning from his use on Tengen's domain. To prevent Gojo from destroying his brain, Naohiro did the honors. Naohiro spoke with narrowed eyes. Domain expansion, Cycle of Samsara. However, crack. Shatter. Naohiro's domain shatters, while Malevolent Shrine stands strong. Slice. Naohiro and Gojo get cut. Ryuman Sukuna took a near-fatal blow during his fight against Gojo and Naohiro, but to fulfill the binding vow with Choso, Naohiro needed to keep him alive. Shattering Sukuna's soul was the most effective way to deal with him while keeping his promise to Choso. Even if Naohiro had absorbed the knowledge and cursed energy in Sukuna's finger, it was impossible to remove it completely, instead making it a part of his soul. So, when Sukuna grabbed the piece of his soul inside Naohiro, rather than manipulating a soul, it was more like his soul felt reunited as it automatically fused back with him. It was the only way that he could effectively move due to the injuries sustained to his soul. While he could heal the soul, the amount of damage is nigh irreparable unless he could get another piece to patch some of the damage. Sukuna knew he couldn't beat Gojo and Naohiro simultaneously, so he decided to accept Kenjaku's offer to join the merger. A being fused with the greatest barrier master and head of the Jujutsu society. Even if Tengen is a master at barriers, Sukuna would win in a domain clash due to the refinement and raw cursed energy that he could put into his domain rather than being a master of the concept of barriers. He was losing in a domain clash and could not keep his domain open against the 2 strongest modern era sorcerers due to the instability of multiple clashes at once. So, give the person who is a master of domain expansions the knowledge that Tengen possessed with barriers and you have the greatest barrier master in history. Far surpassing Tengen and Kenjaku alike. However, an issue remained. Sukuna is currently physically weaker than he was during the previous fight, having around 15 to 16 fingers worth of strength after the piece of his soul patched up some of the damage, so he defaulted to a barrier so he could heal as much of the damage sustained as possible while keeping both Naohiro and Gojo at a distance. Instead of relying on his raw strength, Sukuna is using transcended barrier techniques to keep the two sorcerers in check while he regains his strength. Both spoke before they were able to get cut again. Falling Blossom Emotion. Simple Domain. Sizzle. Slice. Gojo's simple domain burned away as he sustained hundreds of cuts in the span of a second. He smirked with blood all over his body. Falling Blossom Emotion. While not effective as a domain counter, it is perfect for Sukuna. Simple Domain is a barrier that Sukuna was able to remove, but Falling Blossom Emotion is a swordsman technique that doesn't rely on domains. Slice. Slice. The cuts are almost non-existent since his domain's sure hit isn't at full power. While getting nothing but shallow cuts, they finally get a look at the new Sukuna. He is shorter than Yuji but has the same body, except he has shaggy white hair, a lower mouth, and 2 extra arms with 2 extra slits for his 4 total eyes and arms. Sukuna spoke with a smirk. It's time for round 2. Gojo looked slightly annoyed. Should have ended with round 1. Naohiro had his eye twitch. Can you seriously not win with your own body? Even with both of them joking, they knew that they had to deal with him now. Tengen was gone, and the pure barriers surrounding Japan were collapsing, removing the suppression of cursed spirits. If nothing is done, cursed spirits will spread around the world and affect places that have little knowledge of Jujutsu sorcery. With Gojo tipping the balance, the world will erupt into chaos with an influx of powerful curses. Naohiro POV. This is bad, very bad. We're stuck in his domain, and he's shutting down our techniques. Even worse, suppression and shifting properties are imbued in this domain, meaning one thing. I can't adapt while in his domain. Cursed energy is on the table for now, but my technique is gone at the moment. Since he is fused with Tengen, he knows everything she knows about me. It sucks, but I have to get Tengen back somehow. I hate the granny, but she's unrivaled in barrier knowledge. Her brain is gone, but that hasn't stopped incarnations from happening. I'll have to see what I can do with my soul manipulation. I should be able to talk to Tengen if I get my hands on Sukuna. Third POV. Knowing that they are on a timer until Sukuna slowly repairs his soul and Tengen is gone, both rush toward Sukuna. The only way that they are going to get out of here is to force him to drop his domain. Sukuna smiled as his bottom hands clapped. Pure barrier. Both Gojo and Naohiro notice that their cursed energy manipulation is slowly being tampered with, but due to their mastery, it isn't nearly enough to turn it off completely. However, it renders Naohiro unable to pull off a black flash. Sukuna jumped down off of his shrine and engaged the two sorcerers. Gojo and Naohiro threw fists at him, but he was able to catch each of their hands with 2 of his arms. Naohiro narrowed his eyes. He's using domain amplification and imbuing a barrier in his body at the same time. Sukuna was picking up the slack for his physical and cursed energy reserves by using Tengen's techniques. Even now, he is stronger than he was during their first fight. They had to end him before he became even stronger. Kick. Naohiro threw a kick to his body while Sukuna's arms were occupied, and his bottom mouth started to spit out blood. Bam. Gojo moved and held both of his arms to his chest as he used his left fist to punch him in the face. Slice. Slice. Naohiro's leg and Gojo's fist nearly get sliced off, being cut halfway. They rapidly heal with the reverse curse technique but notice it is slightly slower. While still on lower output, Sukuna was able to use cleave on a suppressed Gojo and Naohiro, making it do significantly more damage than it would have otherwise done. Naohiro spoke up and pointed at the shrine. Gojo. Gojo nodded as he ran over toward the shrine. Usually, the objects conjured in a domain are visual rather than meaningful, but the center of the malevolent shrine is the shrine itself. Sukuna narrowed his eyes as he went to turn around to stop Gojo. Grab. Slice. Naohiro latched onto Sukuna's back as he was hit with cleave at the same time. He had a maniacal smile as he bled from the many cuts he had sustained. Where do you think you're going, clown? Sukuna smirked as he glanced behind him. Let's see how long you can hold out. He moved his top 2 arms as Naohiro raised his right arm. Slice. Bam. Slice. Bam. Slice. Bam. Now Hiro could only laugh as he ignored the damage he was sustaining while repeatedly punching Sukuna in the face. Ha ha ha. Come on, King. I'm disappointed after what Uram said about you. Sukuna's face slowly morphed as his slashes still weren't to the level to put down Naohiro. With Gojo. Crash. Shatter. The barrier shattered as the shrine was destroyed. Sukuna widened his eyes as Naohiro's hold tightened as his technique returned. Naohiro charged up his fist with his maniacal smile. BTZ. He screamed. Maximum, Black Soul Rupture. Bam. Sukuna's cheek caved in as he took a direct strike from one of the modern era's strongest. Splat. The left side of his face exploded, showing his teeth and bones. Whoosh. Gojo appeared out of thin air. BTZ. BAM. He smiled as his fist landed in Sukuna's stomach. Black flash. His bottom and top mouths both threw up blood. Sukuna stopped as he stood in place, unmoving. Even if the soul attack were to damage Tengen and Yuji, he needed to end Sukuna before he could return once more. Boof. Naohiro fell off of Sukuna's back as the damage he received settled in, but it was quickly healed due to his adaptation and reverse cursed technique, making it near instant. He spoke. Huff. Huff. I feel like shit. Grab. Naohiro moved his arm as he grabbed Sukuna's leg. Whoosh. He instantly transferred himself into the inner domain. Rather than Sukuna's inner domain, it was an area with a black sky and a smooth gray floor. He saw 3 people. Unconscious Sukuna with cracks all over his body, Tengen with her arms bound on a wall and empty eyes, and Yuji curled up into a ball. Naohiro rubbed the back of his head in irritation. This is going to be a pain in the ass. Tokyo Colony No. 1. Kick. A person gets kicked in the face as they fall to their knees. Splat. Blood goes flying. Bam. Crack. A hardened red fist smashes the person's nose. Splash. Blood poured down their face as a pool of blood surrounded them. The person being struck muttered, Master Sukuna. Master Sukuna. They had no will to fight back and lay down, uncaring about the Mun striking her. Choso screamed, Damn it. Damn it. Damn it. Bam. Splat. Uram's eyes started to close. Boof. She face-planted into the ground. Uram stopped moving. Slowly, she lost the color in her eyes. She didn't fight back. She didn't use the reverse curse technique. Uram had finally died. Choso fell to his knees. Huff. Huff. His hands fell to the ground. Tears started appearing on Choso's face. Ah. Choso wanted nothing more than to protect his brothers. It was bad enough that he wasn't able to find him for all these years. As soon as those words came out of Yuji's mouth, Kill me. Choso felt destroyed. He didn't care that he lost to Uram in the tombs. After the attack on Naohiro, he didn't care about Noritoshi Kumo since he was able to protect his brothers after they were used as hostages. He failed as an older brother. After staying like this for a few minutes, which felt like hours to him, he stood up and started walking toward Naohiro and Gojo. Gojo ended up teleporting Choso and Higuruma even though he didn't care much about them since they would have obstructed the fight with Sukuna. Choso walked over and noticed something strange. With 4 arms and eyes, white hair, and a second mouth, Yuji with Gojo stands near Naohiro as he holds onto his leg with his eyes closed. Gojo spoke up. Choso, right? Choso nodded and took a deep breath. Is Yuji all right? Gojo sighed. Not sure, but Naohiro is inside the inner domain, trying to get Tengen and Sukuna out of the kid's body. Choso walked over. Grab. He hugged Tenkuna, who was in his brother's body. Gojo didn't stop him as Choso stood there hugging Yuji in silence. Yuji didn't know Choso, but to Choso, it felt like he had known Yuji his whole life. Inner domain, Naohiro POV. I speak. I would say serves you right since you are the cause of this shit, but your barriers are needed no matter how much I want to beat you up. She doesn't respond. I'll need to unbind her before getting her out of here. But the first thing I need to take care of. Crack. Poof. I smashed the last remnants of Sukuna's soul by slamming my right foot on his head. My eyes narrow at the dust that was once the king of curses. Stay dead, you cockroach. With that, there is no longer any part of Sukuna left in the world. Sukuna is dead. Kenjaku is dead. Uram is probably dead. When he was in my simple domain, I looked at Choso. He wasn't happy after Yuji got teleported out of his grasp. As I look back on the recent events, I've realized something. I've done it. Everything should be over, so why do I feel unfulfilled? The only thing left is dealing with Tengen and Yuji. Whatever, I'll figure it out later. Now that Sukuna is finished, I'll work on Yuji because if he can get back into control, he might be able to help with Tengen. The only problem is that he is like the other timeline's Megumi at the moment. He doesn't have the will to live, so why would he bother coming back to his body? I've never been good at talk no jutsu, so this is going to be rough. Walking over to the curled up Yuji, I reach my hand out. Pat. I speak. Kid, time to wake up. He didn't move but instead tightened his curl and spoke. I'm done. I rubbed the back of my head. Look, you have a brother out there who really cares about you, so get up. I've dealt with Sukuna and Uram. He started to shake but didn't respond. Damn it, I've got nothing to offer to get him to get up. He couldn't care less about me or Choso. I grabbed his shoulder to pick him up, but he spoke slowly. Do you know how long I've wanted help? What I've been through? Letting go, I sat down next to him. I know what you've been through, but I can't relate. He moved his head closer to his knees. Everyone around me uses me. The only reason you're doing this is to use me. I sigh. You're right. I need you to free Tengen to keep cursed spirits from causing chaos, but as soon as it's done, I'll leave you alone. He started crying. I was helpless as the memories of thousands of people dying were put in my head. Do you know how many people I've killed? I'm responsible for the death of 2,951 people. I counted every single one once the memories returned to me. Even if they weren't worth any points, I killed them all. What can I do to get this kid back? That angle could work. I lie back. Wanna know something, kid? He doesn't respond. My eyes close. In a different timeline, you did the same thing. Sukuna took over your body and killed thousands in Shibuya, and guess what? His head slowly turned to me. I continue. You got up and did everything in your power to make up for it. Every time you were down, you stood back up stronger. I know that you aren't the same person, but you can be. Slowly, he moved to look me in the eyes. I can never be that person. I stare back at him. Maybe not, but you don't have to go through any more of that crap. You have brothers in the world and Choso, your oldest brother, has been searching, trying to protect his youngest brother. He grits his teeth. I've wanted help for so long, but it never came. I look at the endless black sky. Listen, my eyes widened. Someone is touching Yuji. While I can't see the outside, I can feel when people interact with him. Yuji tilts his head to the side as I grab the soul of the person synced with him. Unfortunately, I can't forcefully drag people into another person's inner domain, but I can view their souls. Ah, it's Choso. Of course, he is holding on to Yuji. I smile. Yuji, let me show you what your older brother thinks about you. He raises an eyebrow. Ah. I pull some of Choso's soul information inside the inner domain. Whoosh. The area turns white. Yuji stands up as he covers his eyes from the bright light that comes out of nowhere. The light clears to a small forest. He widens his eyes as he sees a table with food surrounded by monstrous creatures and a mun with 2 hair buns. The area is beautiful. A small hint of life returns to his eyes as he sees another version of himself at the table, smiling, eating with the creatures. Drip. Yuji spoke as a tear dropped from his face. When was the last time I smiled? The other version of Yuji spoke as he picked up spaghetti with his fork and started moving it toward Choso. Hey brother, say ah. Chomp. As Choso ate the spaghetti, he started tearing up with a wide smile. He spoke. It's been years, and I never had the chance to call you my brother face to face. Yuji spoke. That's me. I smile. That is how your brother Choso sees you. No matter what you went through, he wanted to find you, to protect you, to call you his brother. Step. Step. Yuji walked over to his other self, who he couldn't imagine was him, and stared. His head dropped. If only I could be like this. I rubbed my forehead. Alright, let's get you out of here. Choso still needs to see you. He turned toward me. Grab. I pick up Yuji by the back of his shirt. We're going. He blinked at me before shaking his head. Whoosh. We appear back in the empty void that is his inner domain. I turn toward the massive concrete wall with Tungen bound to it. Cracking my neck, I sigh. See ya in a bit, Granny. The next thing I know, I wake up on the ground. Gojo smirked. Good morning, sleepyhead. I returned the smirk. Smartass. Looking over at Tenkuna, or rather Yuji, I notice that his body slowly turns back to normal aside from the white hair. The extra features of Sukuna left his body. Choso's eyes open as he notices that Yuji starts to move. Yuji's own eyes open. He has a small smile. Hey, bro. Tokyo Colony No. 1 Choso froze similarly to when he heard him ask for death, but this time, he froze for a different reason. Yuji called him his brother. After all these years, he finally heard the thing he had been waiting for. Bro. Yuji had a small sweat drop as he saw Choso stare at him without saying anything. Hello? Boof. Choso fell backward and passed out. With how fast everything seemed to be happening, Yuji stood still, stunned. 1. Sukuna awakens in his body. 2. He kills nearly 3,000 people. 3. He gets knocked out by Naohiro's first punch during Sukuna's first fight. 4. He merges with Tungen, and Sukuna comes back. 5. Sukuna loses again, and he gets another black flash to the face, knocking him out again if not for Naohiro forcefully pulling him back. 6. He finds out he has a brother. All of this being in the span of a few hours. Before Yuji could say anything, Naohiro spoke up. Don't worry, Yuji, he's just like that. He blinked. Oh. Gojo spoke up. What about Tengen? Naohiro sighed. Her situation is weird. She is still inside Yuji but isn't responsive and is chained up on a wall. Gojo tilted his head to the side. Can you get her out? Naohiro sits up. Probably, but the issue is what to do with her once she comes out. I freed Yuji so he could help, but I'm not sure how we can get her to wake up. Whoosh. Naoya appears out of nowhere. I miss the fun? Naohiro smirked. Don't act like you are a part of the lunch table. He raised an eyebrow. What a weird way to put it. I would have at least liked to watch you both beat up Sukuna. That reminds me, you see a guy named Kashimo. Naohiro threw his head back. Ugh. If the farmer stayed in the fields and was alive, then the merger wouldn't have started. Naoya started sweating but cleared his throat. Ahem. Anyways, more curses are starting to pop up, so if we can stop the chit-chat and get Tingen back in the tombs, that would be great. Gojo spoke. That's the problem, she's asleep at the moment. Naohiro turned toward Yuji. Kid, come over here for a second. Yuji glanced at Choso before standing up and walking over a few feet. Naohiro spoke. Can you talk or interact with Tengen? He shook his head. The lady hasn't been talking like Sukuna used to. Naohiro looked slightly annoyed. That isn't what I asked. Can you talk back to her or force her to come back? Yuji closed his eyes for a moment but ended up shaking his head. Without saying anything, he stood up and put his hand on the top of Yuji's head. Pat. Naohiro was done taking the roundabout way. Tengen was going to snap back to her usual self even if he had to forcefully do it. Naohiro POV. Whoosh. Like I thought, this is going to be a pain in the ass. Walking over to the chains, I stare up at Tengen. Last chance, Granny. She didn't respond. Here goes nothing. Grab. I put my hands on the chains as I attempt to manipulate them to remove the bindings. What? My heart sinks as information floods into my head. There's no way. While removing the bindings on Tengen is easy, something is wrong. Very, very wrong. I always thought it was strange that Tengen and Sukuna could inhabit Yuji's body at the same time. The precedent set was that only a single being could inhabit a vessel. I simply thought that Tengen was a strange case due to her properties, but she does something completely different. When she merges with people, they become a part of her rather than her becoming a vessel. Riko no longer exists due to this fact since she merged in this timeline. Kenjaku used this trait to do something irreversible to her. Instead of someone merging into her, she merged into Yuji. Which means only one thing. Tengen no longer exists. She is Yuji. Rather than the other way around, she became Yuji. The only thing keeping her here are the bindings. As soon as these bindings are gone, she will disappear, and Yuji will gain her memories. Yuji is the new Tengen, the perfect vessel. The perfect merger. A sad smile appears on my face. Couldn't make things easy, could you, Kenjaku? I look up at Tengen while my grip on the chains tightens. After I break this, the world will change in unknown ways. I've got no clue if Yuji will still be himself after gaining the memories of someone who has lived for over 1,000 years, but I have to make the call. I take a deep breath. Crack. Outside Yuji's inner domain, third POV. Yuji's eyes opened once more as Tengen's knowledge flooded his mind. Now Hiro similarly opened his own eyes. He crossed his arms. You alright, kid? Yuji stood still and stared at nothing before speaking. Whoa, what the hell is this? Gojo raised an eyebrow. Now Hiro, what happened? Rather than answering Gojo, now Hiro spoke to Yuji. Are you Tengen or Yuji? Yuji tilted his head to the side. I think I myself? I feel like my normal self aside from the insane amount of techniques in Jujutsu that flooded my mind. Choso shot up, no longer being unconscious. Phew. Like a bullet, Choso appears in front of Yuji. He grabbed Yuji's shoulders and shook him. Tell me, are you Yuji? Yuji had a small smile. Yeah. Before people could start asking questions, now Hiro spoke up. Tengen merged into Yuji, meaning the granny is gone. She has become Yuji, giving him access to her knowledge. I've got no clue why, but it seems like his personality stayed the same. Now Hiro thought to himself. Is it because of the way he was created as a vessel? Rather than becoming Tengen, Yuji's body changed as if he lived as Tengen. Similar to how his body remembered Sukuna's use of Jujutsu in the main timeline, it's as if he used all of Tengen's abilities for centuries, as well as allowing him to use her technique. In other words, Yuji is now immortal and can use the peak of barrier techniques as the new Tengen. Yuji pointed to himself. What does that mean for me? Now Hiro scratched his hair. We'll figure it out later, but for now, we need you to fix the barriers around Japan so the world doesn't go to shit. Rather than asking questions, he nodded as he made a hand sign and closed his eyes. Suddenly, multiple barriers expanded from Yuji's position and rapidly grew bigger as they became nigh unseeable to anyone. After a moment, Yuji lowered his hands. He smiled. That was easier than I thought it would be. If any normal barrier user attempted to pull off this feat, it would be near impossible due to the concentration and precision required to maintain a barrier around Japan, but Tengen could passively do it without thinking much about it since she had done it for over 1,000 years. Yuji's body was unconsciously maintaining the barriers as if he were simply breathing. Naoya spoke up. This is so weird. So, is this stupid culling game thing over now? Now Hiro smiled. Gojo interrupted. Nah, it's not over yet. Everyone looked at Gojo like he was stupid, but he continued. There's one thing left that I'd like to do. While most were confused, now Hiro started piecing the puzzle together. He turned to now Hiro. It's been years and years, and there hasn't been a more perfect time to test ourselves. Let's find out who is the strongest. The area went quiet as Gojo looked dead serious. After a moment, now Hiro smirked. Yeah, sounds like fun. Let's make it an event. In a couple of days, we can meet up in Shinjuku for a final fight. Naoya looked at the both of them, and sweat dropped. An event. Now Hiro had a wide smile. Yeah, let's call it the Shinjuku Showdown. Zenin Compound, now Hiro POV. 2 days until Christmas Eve. The day when the two strongest sorcerers will fight. It will be an event that goes down in history. No pressure. I even got my outfit planned. Shoko tried to help me pick out something, but I came up with my own. Well, not really my own. Anyways, I definitely have the advantage, but it won't be an easy fight. Without my specific adaptations to slashes and fire, fighting Sukuna 1v1 would have been rough. Facing Gojo will be an even more difficult fight. I'm already adapted to blue and infinity and partially adapted to purple. As far as I know, he only has red and purple. However, I'm not stupid enough to think that is all he has, since this isn't the same Gojo. Since we plan on going all out, I'll adapt to everything he has unless I end up dying. In the end, if I end up surviving, he won't be able to beat me again. Well, I guess he would technically be the strongest sorcerer, just not against me. It's weird, so I don't want to think about it too much. As for his techniques, launching them at the wrong time will prevent them from being used again. A domain clash is the last thing he wants to do. I've already adapted to his domain. If he tries to clash with me, I can drop my domain since I'm immune to his sure hit. Then there is the matter of hand-to-hand. He's better than me, but my adaptations can mitigate the difference in close-quarters combat skills. If either of us wants to win this, we need to fight as if we are trying to kill one another. Obviously, I'm not planning on killing my best friend, but I can't hold back or get distracted. I've completed my goal of the removal of all the threats. Kenjaku, Uram, Toji, Sukuna, and the Culling game players are all done for. The last thing I have to do is become the strongest sorcerer. A voice spoke to my left. I didn't expect you to be nervous, of all people. I smiled. Not nervous, just thinking about how the fight will go. Naoya walked over and sat next to me. You do know that Gojo has a terrible matchup against you, right? I lie back. Yeah, but it's not going to be easy. He smirks. It will be. The bet has you 8:2 in favor of you winning. I bet my life savings on you, so you are going to win this thing. I raise an eyebrow. Dumbass, who would set up a B-, he chuckled. May. I huffed a laugh. Of course, it's the money-hungry grade one. He rubs his forehead. She's even selling tickets to watch the fight. She holds the monopoly since she can view the entire fight from a distance using her crows. I close my eyes. You buy one. He had a wide smile. Gojo bought me one and said he'll show me what my brother looks like when he loses. I sit up. Sounds like something he'd do. Naoya sighed. Although I bought a few for my students, Choso and Yuji, since they didn't have enough money. I shook my head. Well, I did say this was an event. It went silent for a few moments. He spoke up with a serious look on his face. The only thing you really need to look out for is his techniques, since he knows how your own technique works. I smirked. Who knew you would be my coach this time? Sounds eerily familiar to when I was training you. He kept his serious look. I'm not joking. Even you won't be able to shrug off his hits. I smiled. Nah, I'd adapt. Gojo Clan Compound, 3rd POV. Yaga leans on the entrance to the compound. Gojo smirked. What brings you here? Teach. He looked serious. Just thought I'd stop by to talk for a bit. Instead of replying, Gojo walked over to a grassy area and sat down, waving Yaga to come sit down next to him. After sitting down, Yaga spoke. I'm here to offer some advice. Gojo raised an eyebrow. That I should quit? He shook his head. On the contrary, I want to talk to you about winning this thing. That shocked Gojo, since nearly everyone had talked to him about how he was the underdog in this fight. Gojo kept his raised eyebrow. Why are you even helping me in the first place? He pushed up his glasses. Because my wife bet on you, and our marriage isn't the most stable at the moment. Gojo blinked at him. PFT haha. Spit flew in Yaga's face as Gojo laughed at him. Yaga looked irritated but calmed himself down. So, I came here to talk to you about Naohiro. You might be stronger at the start of the fight, but prolonging it is a surefire way to lose. Gojo smiled. Naohiro always told me never to say this, but I'll do it just this once. Nah, I'd win. Without acknowledging the doomed statement, Yaga continued to discuss a plan against Naohiro with Gojo. 2 days later in the monitoring room, third POV. The fated day has arrived. While danger doesn't exist, this battle will determine the strongest. The final battle. Yuji spoke up. So, bro, who do you think is going to win this thing? Choso grabbed his heart as he struggled to get words out. Ugh. And Naohiro. Since he didn't know who Naohiro and Gojo were before a few days ago, he had no idea what to expect in a fight labeled as the fight to determine the strongest sorcerer. A voice spoke behind him. Brothers should be cherished. I respect you. The Mun speaking had no brothers of his own but knew the look of a Mun who loved his brother. Yuji turned around, but before he could ask who the person was, he spoke up. I have one question for you, what is your type? Yuji and Choso looked at each other and blinked. Choso had no idea what his type was since his only focus in life was his brothers. Yuji spoke, confused. Ah, tall with big butts? He was sheltered due to his time imprisoned, but before that time, he was a fan of tall girls with big butts. Drip. Tadu started crying. Brother. Choso turned at Tadu. Ha. Bunk. Yuki appeared out of nowhere. I came back from America, and the first thing I saw was Japan in chaos and Tadu making brothers with random people. She then smiled as she turned to Yuji. Not a bad type, though. Choso stepped in front of Yuji. Who might you be? Yuki smiled. Yuki Tsukumo. You didn't answer Tadu's question, what is your type? Choso only looked more confused as he met two people asking the same weird question. After a moment, he nodded. Hemph. Someone who protects my brothers. She raised an eyebrow. You really have a thing for brothers, huh? Choso's face reddened as he pointed at her. Not like that. She smirked. Right, sure. Choso snapped back to normal. I'd do anything for them, even if it means sacrificing everything I have, aside from my brothers. Yuki had a small smile. In another corner, Megumi was hanging out with Yuta. They hit it off fairly quickly when they both learned that they had a giant monster attached to them. Well, it was mainly Rika being put in her place by Mahoraga that got Yuta to hang out with him. Megumi spoke. Naohiro. Yuta sighed. Naohiro. That was all that needed to be said for them to become friends. Grab. Maki hugged my spoke. Ugh, heavenly restriction, remember. Maki instantly let go of my. Sorry, I didn't know you would be joining us. My stretched. Yeah, it turns out that Mekamaru gave me his ticket after securing a date with Miwa. She was sad because she wanted to go, but she was happy in the end because they both had a thing for one another. Speaking of people joining, where is Hikari? Maki rubbed the back of her head. Big bro didn't get him one, so he went out to gamble. Who knows if he can make it or not? Mai raised an eyebrow. Did Ranta get one? Maki sighed. Didn't want to come, said he needed to train. Mai recoiled. He never does anything except work for the Zenin. It's just as if not more weird than Megumi's obsession with his sister. Maki huffed a laugh. Nothing is weirder than Megumi's obsession with Tsumaki. They both glanced over to Megumi and shivered. Naoya narrowed his eyes. Why did you come? Naobito smirked. Can I not come to an event I paid for? Yes, Naoya didn't buy his father a ticket. Naoya looked at Naobito like he was trash since he came to the fight drunk. Naobito smiled. This will be fun to watch. Naoya closed his eyes. We'll see, old man. The screen showcased two sorcerers standing across from one another. Someone screamed. Kick his ass, Naohiro. The room went silent as everyone turned to the voice. It was Yutaheim. She didn't seem to care that everyone was looking at her since she was only focused on one thing. Gojo getting that smirk punched off his face. In the corner, Shoko rested her head on the wall. This is more of a reunion than a spectator lounge. She thought to herself. That idiot. Flashback 2 days ago. Naohiro smiled. Shoko, After I win this thing, wanna get married? She blinked. What the hell? Sure. He kept his smile. Great. End of flashback. Everything was over, so he no longer had anything to worry about. However, he has never been good at reading the room or making the moment special. In other words, he's an idiot. Shinjuku Showdown. Naohiro and Gojo stood apart from each other. Gojo wore a short white shirt with black pants. Naohiro wore Toji's clothes. Gojo smirked. What a copycat. Wearing the homeless man's clothes. Naohiro returned the smirk. Well, you lost once to him, and you're going to lose again. Instead of playing into Naohiro's taunts, he moved his arms and legs and took a fighting stance. Naohiro moved into a different fighting stance and smirked. He took a deep breath. Here we go. Shinjuku Gojo smiled. Curse technique lapse, blue. A blue orb appeared behind Naohiro. Contrary to most expectations, he wasn't pulled back. Due to the adaptation that occurred during the clan tournament, Naohiro is no longer affected by blue. However, its use wasn't to harm Naohiro. It was made to increase his speed by using its properties of attraction. Whoosh. Gojo vanished, appeared in front of him, and threw a punch. Naohiro smiled as he blocked in an X formation. Bam. Gojo's fist connected with Naohiro's arms as he went flying. Boom. In the span of a second, Gojo vanished and sent Naohiro flying into a building. While people were shocked and some were booing Yutaheim, Gojo thought to himself. What's going on? He should have been able to react to that. A voice spoke up from the dust. Twin meteors. Slice. Gojo's eyes widened as he bent back 90 degrees to avoid a monstrous slash that would have diced him in two. He laughed as he stood back up. Haha, copying Sukuna now? Naohiro walked out of the dust unharmed with a smirk. My whole technique is using the phenomena that people have used. It takes a lot of focus to launch one of those things. I just wanted to see if you could dodge something like that. Gojo is already aware of how his technique works, but he never thought that he could strengthen someone else's technique. Out of all Sukuna's slashes, the one Naohiro used was stronger than all of them. Had it been anyone else, he might have allowed the attack to connect due to infinity, but Naohiro has long since been immune to it. Added to that, he no doubt would be in a bad spot if it landed, judging from the charge time and raw amount of cursed energy. Gojo cracked his neck. Now that the openers are done, let's get the ball rolling. I still need to show off to my students. His eyes glowed blue as cursed energy erupted from his body. In all of his fights since coming to Jujutsu High, Gojo has had to hold back his strength. Even in his fight against Sukuna, he hasn't gone all out. This will be the first time he will be able to fight with everything unlocked in his Jujutsu arsenal. Every exchange is to find out superiority. The next step is to see who wins in a domain clash. Gojo crossed his fingers while Naohiro brought his hands together. Domain expansion, unlimited void. Domain expansion, cycle of samsara. Whoosh. A desert clashed with an infinite void of nothingness. To the shock of everyone, they were evenly matched. However, crack. The unlimited void started to shatter. A domain expansion is made by infusing it with a curse technique, so anything Naohiro had adapted to, such as another domain, can be ignored and destroyed. Gojo narrowed his eyes as Naohiro had a wide smile. Their domains were similar in that if you were affected by the sure hit for even a second, it was over. So, Gojo smirked as his domain patched itself up and held firm. Naohiro widened his eyes. Not bad. Gojo manipulated his barrier's properties and took inspiration from a mun he fought not long ago. Binding vows. One that removes the sure hit and allows for the barrier to be non-solid to counteract the damage that Naohiro could do, keeping his technique from burning out and having the same amplification to his cursed technique. Clink. However, Naohiro was adapting to the new change. Naohiro and Gojo charged at each other as it came down to who could make the other drop their domain, Naohiro being on the advantageous side. Gojo threw a punch, but Naohiro caught it with his right. Naohiro threw a kick to Gojo's side, but he flipped over Naohiro. Using his time in the air, Gojo spoke. Phase. Paramitha. Pillar of Light. Now Hiro wasn't idle as he tightened his grip on Gojo's hand and spoke with a raised left hand, making a hand sign. Blast. Recall. Shockwave. Gojo landed and pointed at Naohiro's face while veins bulged on Naohiro's arm. Red. Thunderclap. BTZ. Splat. Boom. A black shockwave gets sent through Gojo's arm while the red hits Naohiro in the face. Crack. Clink. Shatter. Naohiro's and Gojo's domains both shatter. Naoya spoke while in the TV room. Please don't tell me they killed each other. Nabito laughed. That would be pretty anticlimactic, wouldn't it? Naoya turned toward his father. I'm more worried about them dying rather than winning or losing a stupid fight. I didn't think they would go this far. Shoko stretched. Trust me, that isn't nearly enough to put either of them down. Now that Naohiro is adapted to Gojo's red and that domain binding vow won't work again, Gojo is in a tough spot. Yaga showed up out of nowhere. He's going to win this thing. Maki spoke up. What makes you say that? Yaga stared at the screen. Because he told me he was. Step. Step. Pat. Naoya slowly walked over to Yaga and put his hand on his shoulder. It's okay to have opinions, some are just more wrong than others. Yaga shook his head. Don't say it's over until it's over. Naoya smirked and looked into Yaga's eyes. The longer he fights, more and more cards get taken out of his deck, until he loses. When the debris cleared, Naohiro had half of his face missing, which showed broken bone and blood, with part of his neck removed. With a combination of adaptations and reverse curse technique, it took only 5 seconds for all the injuries to disappear. Naohiro smiled. That hurt. However, that attack wouldn't work again. The combination of chanting, Gojo being domain amplified, and having a red shot at point blank made Naohiro take more damage than he had when adapting to Sukuna's fire arrow. Gojo, on the other hand, was only missing an arm. Before the shockwave could go through his entire body, he ripped off his own arm. Gojo had a wide smile. Holy crap, I would have died had that thing hit me. He had won the exchange, but that was all that happened. Gojo could no longer use red for offense purposes and his domain has become essentially useless if Naohiro uses his own. If it were the other timeline's Gojo, the only thing he has left is purple and hand-to-hand he spoke with a smile. My anti-Naohiro technique that I haven't used since I was a teenager. Shinjuku Naohiro appeared in front of Gojo and threw a punch. Black flash. BTZ. BAM. Gojo lifted his arms to block, but they were crushed under the force of the strike. Boom. As far as Naohiro knew, Gojo's technique was still burnt out, so it was the perfect opportunity to strike. Gojo was superior in hand-to-hand, but having a black flash on hand could make up for the difference. Naohiro smiled. Now that I've adapted to red in your domain, what are you going to do? Phew. Rather than replying, a red beam flew up from the debris. However, Naohiro knew where this was going. The blue he created at the start hasn't disappeared yet. How? It should have left when his technique burned out. He had seen this exact move before. Naohiro narrowed his eyes as he jumped toward the blue orb. He refreshed his curse technique. I need to prevent him from getting unlimited hollow purple off. Quickly removing the blue orb by using his adaptation to delete it, Naohiro turned around and rushed toward Gojo as the red flew past him. The dust cleared, and Gojo was seen with a smirk. Figured me out, huh? Naohiro landed a couple of meters away from Gojo. It shouldn't be possible to keep your blue active when your curse technique burns out, unless... Gojo smiled. Unless it never burned out in the first place? Naohiro laughed. Ha ha ha, the both of us really do break the rules of Jujutsu. It's almost unfair how we can change the rules. Gojo found out that Naohiro could avoid the burnout problem during their fight against Sukuna, so he used his 6 eyes to analyze Naohiro's adaptation and produce a similar result by limiting his domain's output. His technique was fairly exhausted, putting him on low output, but he was able to maintain a blue during the time his domain shattered. He is the only Jujutsu sorcerer to figure out how to limit the burnout of a domain expansion that didn't have special traits like adaptation. Now that he was done with the blue, He could refresh his technique by destroying the portion of his brain since he didn't need to maintain the blue any longer, and he wasn't going to use a domain again. Now Hiro smiled as he brought his hands together. Well, it was fun, Satoru. Domain expansion, cycle of samsara. Gojo shifted his stance. Simple domain. Although he could avoid the sure hit, Gojo was trapped. He couldn't clash without burning his technique, and he wouldn't be able to escape since now Hiro would prevent him from making a hole in the domain's barrier. Now Hiro has already adapted to his primary techniques, and purple was off the table because he could not charge it fast enough. He had seen through his unlimited hollow purple, which was his one chance to get purple off. Gojo was a bad match for someone who could adapt to his techniques, especially if he went into a fight with some of them already adapted to. Now Hiro is limited in his own techniques due to most of his ranged attacks having the ability to be blocked by infinity. Only special ranged attacks like Sukuna's World Slash can be fired from a distance, and they require a charge-up time. Gojo's problem is his lack of diverse techniques. His main arsenal only contains 5. Red, blue, purple, infinity, and domain expansion. 2 of these techniques were taken when he was a child, and now that his domain and red are useless against now Hiro, he should only have purple left. To remedy this, he wanted to ensure that he had something in his arsenal that he could hold back until he inevitably fought against a full-powered now Hiro. Something he ended up creating when he was a teenager. The maximum technique of the limitless. While his domain expansion could be seen as his ultimate technique, the refinement and raw output of his maximum technique surpassed anything he had previously used. The peak of space manipulation. Deleting space itself. Red, blue, and purple all work with the world, correcting the balance of the void produced in space, which is where the destructive capacity comes from. Red adds a surplus of space, blue takes space in a vacuum, and purple creates imaginary mass. The maximum technique of the limitless creates the impossibility of the removal of space itself as if it never existed in the first place. The erasure of existence. Reverse cursed technique or adaptations. None of it matters if the part affected never existed in the first place. Since how can you heal something that never existed? The question that lingered in Gojo's mind was if now Hiro could adapt to it. Now Hiro has shown that his technique isn't simple. He seems inhuman since his curse technique seems separate from how his body functions. After this fight, he would no longer be able to fight against now Hiro because he had adapted to his techniques. No matter the outcome, he will never be able to beat now Hiro after today. They have both proven that they are willing to go far enough to kill each other to see who is the strongest. Even though they are best friends, this would be the last fight where they could go all out, making it one where they couldn't hold back any of their techniques or hesitate. In the past, he thought he would stand alone as the strongest, but it ended up being the reverse. He saw now Hiro as the final obstacle to prove to himself that he could be called strong. It was the main reason he challenged now Hiro so many times throughout the years, to understand what it means to be strong. Only someone who could stand at the peak could help one understand the meaning of true strength. It was what he realized when he awakened as the Honored One. Now I see what I've been missing. Something similar plagued now Hiro's mind. Everything should be over, so why do I feel unfulfilled? Sukuna lived and breathed by the ideology of his own stature as the strongest. Everyone who stands at the peak of sorcery has trouble understanding the meaning of true strength. Hajime Kashimo wanted to fight Sukuna to understand him, and Gojo, in the previous timeline, wanted to reach Sukuna to help him understand the loneliness that comes with unrivaled strength. And now, Gojo was going to teach now Hiro the meaning of unrivaled strength. Maximum, void. Shinjuku crack. Shatter. Gojo stared at now Hiro as his domain shattered. Everyone stood shocked as they looked at the display. Shoko's mouth slowly fell before she yelled. UI. Not wasting time, she turned to the side where a white-haired child was seen lying on his sister's lap. The kid spoke as he looked annoyed at having to do his job. Is it over now? Big sister. Mei nodded. You can go. Shoko gave him a stare as UI walked over to her. He grabbed a sheet and covered himself and Shoko. Spatial transference. The ability to adapt to any and all phenomena. This is what defines Mahoraga. Space manipulation, an infinite pointed sphere, and even basic slashes. Mahoraga has adapted to all of these phenomena. It is what makes him so dangerous to fight against. If you play around and don't make quick work of him, he can quickly turn the tides of a battle. He will adapt and render abilities useless if you can't destroy him in a single blow. Everything within the world can be considered a phenomenon due to the rules that are put in place. While Now Hero doesn't fall under the world's rules, his traits are that of one who does. So, would the removal of existence itself fall under the conditions of phenomena? Drip. Drip. Now Hero stood still. Blood flowed as a massive hole appeared in his chest. Maximum Void is a technique that Gojo can spawn on a target, making it an undodgeable technique. It takes purple as a base to create the imaginary mass needed to remove space. A normal purple couldn't do meaningful damage to Now Hero, so his first choice was using unlimited hollow purple due to the raw destructive capacity it had. He can launch a Void faster than purple, but his technique burns out due to the strain of the technique. Adapting to Void means adapting to purple as well. Now Hero is durable enough to take any attack thrown his way, allowing him to win every fight past his childhood due to outlasting if he doesn't already far surpass them. So, to win, you would need to bypass durability altogether with something he hadn't adapted to and have the ability to be strong enough to one-shot him. Gojo's maximum technique happened to fulfill those conditions. A small voice spoke. Would I really die from something like that? I already told you. Clink. He smirked. Nah, I'd adapt. If it had managed to one-shot him in the first place. As long as Now Hero doesn't get obliterated and has even a fraction of a second to adapt, he will 10 tenths times. All he needs to adapt is the small portion of his brain that holds his curse technique to become immune to everything thrown his way since his trait and technique work hand in hand. He needs only a single trigger to fully adapt to a technique or phenomenon. Existence erasure is something that falls within the bounds of the world regardless of how strong the ability is. It is a part of the limitless technique. Gojo isn't like Now Hero. He is bound by the laws and rules of the world. Now, Gojo had nothing. Nothing to counter him. No attacks that can do meaningful damage. No more hidden techniques from the teenage era. Now Hero adapted to everything Gojo had. Gojo spoke. Damn, I don't know if I should feel relieved or pissed. I thought I might have killed you. The large hole in Now Hero's body was all but gone after the adaptation took place. Now Hero fell on his back. Had you gone for my head, I would have lost. Gojo sat down across from him. Had you used soul damage in your strikes, I wouldn't have been able to launch it in the first place. Now Hero looked at the sky. Well, I guess we were both still holding back. This wasn't a death match. The world didn't depend on this one fight. It was to find out who was stronger. Now Hero had most of his ranged arsenal restricted due to Infinity, and Gojo was unable to use Blue and Infinity in close quarters since the fight began. Gojo scratched his hair as he looked slightly irritated. I ended up losing. I guess saying nah, I'd win came to bite me in the ass, huh? Now Hero smiled. I can't believe you said that shit after I told you to never speak that sentence. Gojo had a sad smile. In any case, it was fun. Flap. A white blanket appears as it unravels two people. Specifically, Shoko and Ui. Now Hero sat up, keeping his smile. A little late. She narrowed her eyes as she walked over to Now Hero and Gojo. Bonk. Bonk. She bonked both of them on the head. Gojo's technique was still burnt out from earlier. Shoko brought her hands close to her face. Now Hero plugged his ears. Idiots. Did you know how worried I was? Huff. Huff. Unplugging his ears, Now Hero stood up and stretched as Shoko checked for abnormalities on his body. He hadn't experienced a severe adaptation like that in a long time, maybe since he was training with World Cutting. Gojo whispered to Now Hero. Doesn't she remind you of the old man? Now Hero smiled as he shook his head. Sorry, we went a little overboard. Shoko stepped back from Now Hero as she put her hands on her hips. A little. The four of them, Ui included, looked around and saw destroyed buildings, contrary to what it looked like a few minutes prior. Now Hero had a nervous laugh. Haha, Naoya is good at handling this type of stuff. Shoko facepalmed. You are a terrible brother. He sighed. I know. Whoosh. Naoya appeared a few feet from Naohiro. He looked relieved. Thank God you guys are all right. Naohiro had a small smile. I didn't think it would be this close. Gojo shouted in protest. The hell is that supposed to mean? Naohiro ignored him. Naoya rubbed the back of his head. So, don't want to be that guy. But who won? There are still a ton of people waiting for a payout. It went silent for a moment. Before Gojo spoke up. Naohiro won. Naoya nodded. Alright, I'm just glad that this ended without someone dying. It was barely noticeable, but only those with the sharpest of senses could see Naoya's fist ever so slightly pump. Gojo grabbed his hair. Crap, the old man is gonna kill me. Naohiro smirked. I have a feeling that he's going to be more worried about his wife than you. Shoko rubbed her forehead. Speaking of that. Naohiro looked at the sky with a smile. Yeah, speaking of that, there are still a few things I need to do to be fulfilled. A few weeks later, Yutaheim shook her head. Absolutely not. Naohiro looked irritated. I'm not wearing a suit. She crossed her arms. This only happens once, so you need to look good for her. Naohiro mumbled to himself. If I just wore my Jujutsu high uniform, it would be easy. Shoko has always picked out his clothes, but Yutaheim helped him this time for the wedding. If clothes couldn't be useful in battle, then they were irrelevant to him. If he was able to comfortably move, then he didn't care what he wore. Yutaheim put her hands on her sides. What do you want to wear? The clothes you used in the Gojo fight make you look like some random thug. Naohiro crossed his arms. They were cool, though. Before coming to this world, Naohiro was a Toji fan before he nearly killed Gojo and him. However, even after he killed Toji, Naohiro was a fan of Toji's drip. Yutaheim gave Naohiro a deadpan stare. You have no fashion sense. He crossed his arms and had a serious face. I wouldn't know anything about that. Fashion is meaningless. Yutaheim spoke. Where did you steal that line from? Naohiro flopped his head. I'll wear the suit. Zenin compound. Yuki slid the door open where Choso and his brothers were stationed, including Yuji. The half-curses and Yuji turned toward her as they were in the middle of eating spaghetti. Yuki rubbed her forehead. I've got good and bad news. Choso stood up and narrowed his eyes. Bad news. Yuki shook her head. I negotiated with the higher-ups so that Yuji can stay here as long as he has adequate protection and can maintain the barriers around Japan. The bad news is that he needs to be under surveillance and can't leave the country. Choso raised an eyebrow. We have the strongest sorcerer in history, 2 other special grade sorcerers, the Divine General Summoner, and special grade half-curses all in the compound. A voice came from outside. I'm here too. Choso sighed. We have the ponytail boy as well. While not as strong as the other sorcerers, Ranta has reached the level of a grade 1 sorcerer. Unfortunately for Ranta, Choso still didn't know what his name was. Yuki huffed a laugh. PFT. I'm not saying there isn't enough protection, but the higher-ups don't trust Naohiro, so I'm going to be here to monitor Yuji. Choso crossed his arms. If you are going to be here, you are going to work as hard as me to ensure the well-being of my brothers. I won't tolerate anything else. She blinked, as she didn't expect that response. Yuki had a small smile. You know what? We might just get along. She thought to herself. Let's see if he's my type. Elsewhere in the compound, Mai's head was on the table. First Mekamaru, then Maki, and now you. Megumi tilted his head to the side. What? Her face was still on the table. I can't believe you are seriously dating your sister. Megumi didn't care about other people's opinions at this point. He liked Tsumeki, and she liked him. They aren't blood-related, but it's still strange. Megumi rested his chin on his hand and ignored Mai's comment. What is it with Maki? She said a single word. Yuta. Megumi's eyes widened in horror. Naohiro is gonna kill him. Did Maki come up with some elaborate attempt to get Yuta killed? If Mahoraga could beat Rika, Yuta is going to have to flee to Africa. Yuta would face hardships in his relationship with Maki, but that is a story for another time. A few days later, Naoya stood outside of Naohiro's room. "You look good, strongest sorcerer." Naohiro felt defeated as he wore a tux. "I'm going to burn this outfit after this whole thing is over." Naoya smiled. 8 years, and you didn't seal the deal. Never thought you would marry her in the first place. Naohiro rolled his eyes. "Well, I had to deal with a bunch of sorcerers from the Heian era, so I didn't feel like it yet." Naoya put his hand on his chin. Well, I'm happy for you regardless. Oh, that reminds me. Did you hear that Maki started to date the Yuta kid? Crack. Naohiro stood in place as the ground slightly cracked. Ha. However, Naoya simply smiled. "Anyways, let's go to the wedding." Naohiro wanted to say something, but Naoya grabbed Naohiro by the back of his tux and started to drag him. He didn't care that he was getting dragged like he used to do to Naoya, since he was planning on 101 ways to kill Yuta. Should I destroy his soul or heal him with reverse cursed technique over and over again before destroying his soul? After a little while of waiting, Shoko arrived. She was wearing her usual outfit with a lab coat. It looked like she had just gotten off her 9 to 5 and gone to a work event. Naohiro sighed while everyone in attendance had a hard time trying not to laugh. One wasn't even awake, and one was absent. Yuta wasn't invited and Naobito was passed out drunk at his son's wedding. In the end, the rest of the attendees looked somewhat disinterested, aside from two. The first was crying. "I'm so proud of you, Master Naohiro." It was Ranta. The other had his phone out, snickering the entire time. It was Gojo. He might not be the strongest, but he now had blackmail on the strongest sorcerer. The Jujutsu world was more focused on strength, curses, and cursed energy than other things, so it was strange to hold a wedding in the first place. Shoko walked up to the front. "Chew." She spoke with a tired face. "Let's get something to eat." With that, everyone got up and left. Well, a few others were still there. Swipe. Yutaheim was trying to grab Gojo's phone as he recorded her flipping out. "Stop it, idiot." Gojo smirked. "You aren't going to get married with that attitude, Yutaheim." He was laughing at Naohiro's outfit, which prompted a fight between him and Yutaheim. A fight she couldn't win as a semi-grade 1 sorcerer. Naoya shouted. "Maybe the both of you should get together. You have great chemistry." Yutaheim turned toward Naoya. "Like hell. Like hell." These words are the I'd win of Yutaheim. She had no idea what awaited her in the future. Anyways, it was a shitty wedding. Naohiro's eye twitched. Why the hell do I even bother? 3 years later, Megumi put his hands in a particular formation. Mahoraga. A behemoth jumped up from the shadows. Standing tall as the trump card of the 10 shadows that even some special-grade sorcerers feared, he looked at the people in front of him. Stomp. 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 Mahoraga smiled. "Uncle Mahoraga." 2 kids jumped and hung off of the behemoth's arms as if he were a tree. Carefully picking them up, Mahoraga placed them on his shoulders. It seemed strange at first, but Naohiro insisted that Mahoraga would be an uncle to his kids. Specifically, his 2 kids he had after his marriage. No one really questioned it since it was on brand for Naohiro to do and say random shit that only people who understood Jujutsu Kaisen memes would get. Megumi sat on the sidelines. "Is my curse technique a joke to you?" Naohiro nodded. "Yes." In the back of his mind, he wondered what kind of curse technique they would develop when they grew up. Would they inherit it, be an offshoot, inherit a different one, or not have one at all? Naohiro didn't know, but he wasn't going to be the next Oji and hate his children. His thoughts were broken as another person walked out into the courtyard. The Mun only second to Gojo. The Mun with the second highest cursed energy in the modern era. The special grade sorcerer with diverse techniques that can defeat people from the Heian era. Even Kenjaku wouldn't stand a chance against him. The child who was a protagonist. Yuji Itadori. Oh yeah, Yuta is a special grade, too. But Rika was half of that. Hikari ended up starting his own fighting ring/casino with Karara after graduating. Higuruma turned toward the law once more. Maki became the next curse exterminator that would be sent overseas. Currently, Yuta and Maki are both in America. Yuta definitely didn't use travel as an excuse to get away from Naohiro, but Naohiro has come to terms with the fact that they are in a relationship. Naohiro bit his thumb. I'm gonna kill that bastard. Or not. After the marriage between Shoko and Naohiro, it was like a catalyst for others. To everyone's shock, Gojo ended up with Yutaheim after a long period of back and forth. While they had conflicting personalities, they did have their chemistry, which blossomed into a relationship. Yuki ended up with Choso after living with him and his brothers for a long period in the Zenin compound. Mai and Ranta are currently single, but that may very well change. A loud voice came from the entrance of the Zenin compound. Brothers, I have returned. Clap. Grab. He switched places with Megumi to reach Yuji and give him a hug. After learning about his tastes, Tadu officially joined Choso and Yuji as a brother. Naohiro sat down on the courtyard's grass and smiled. It was finally done. He felt fulfilled. Naohiro spoke. I'm not sure what comes after this, but this truly was my Jujutsu Kaisen.
And that concludes this episode. If you enjoyed it, I'd seriously love it if you guys could leave a like on the video, as it genuinely helps out so much, and it keeps me going, plus it takes only 1 second. That said, have a wonderful day. See you in the next one.